Ah, there we go. Sometimes the button mutes properly, sometimes it unmutes properly, or improperly, or something like that. Alright, so, hope you're all having a great weekend. Today, if you go by the title of the live stream, yes, in fact, we are doing another Discuss live stream, and we will be going over spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 2. Yes, indeed. So, yes, spoilers. You're warned. For those of you watching, we will be going over spoilers from the game, Red Dead Redemption 2, because we beat the game, Thursday night. There's still a lot to do in the game, so I'll probably be doing some stuff and adventuring around, Tall Trees, Great Plains, New Austin, Armadillo region. So we'll be heading that way while we have our Discuss series today, our live stream. And we're going to go chapter by chapter, so that's my plan. And if there's anything you guys want to bring up in chat, feel free to do so. And we even have the Discord open for anyone to jump in that's in Discord to talk about spoilers as well concerning Red Dead Redemption 2. Some of the things that we learned in Red Dead Redemption 2, surprises, as well as comparing the events of Red Dead Redemption 2 to Red Dead Redemption, because there are some slight differences that we have discovered. A little bit of retconning. Bear in mind that Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2 were both written by Dan Houser and his writing staff. So he has the right to retcon some things, to change some things that we learned about in Red Dead Redemption that may not be exactly the case, comparing it to the events of Red Dead Redemption 2. Just wanted to put that out there for you before we get started, and to thank everyone that's here so far. We'll give it a few more minutes before we officially start. But Beast Mode, Snipes, welcome. Carlene, hello Carlene. How you doing today? Hope you're all having a great weekend. New subscribers, see Erickson Piers and Brandon Jones. Thanks for the subs. Welcome to the GeauxBurns Nation. And before we get going, thank you so much to our awesome members, Trippy Mark, Zoa, Aaron Thomas, MyDune, my very good friend Azralynn, and she's been streaming some last year beta, and I played that last night with her. She gave me a key to play the beta, so we had some fun last night on her stream. It's an interesting survival horror game, and it should be coming out soon, so check that out and be sure and check out Azralynn. She's going to continue with her Red Dead Redemption 2 live streaming hopefully soon. She kind of got stopped and distracted by other games. That's what happens. Me, I'm not so distracted. I just focus on the game. Hutch, Oliver King, my very good friend ACG. We talked about, yesterday during the ACG International podcast live stream, we talked about Red Dead Redemption 2, Fallout 76, and some other stuff as well. Hopefully he'll be posting that on YouTube sometime this weekend, and once he does, I will share it via Facebook, Twitter, and Discord. Killer Scorpion, Chris Brad 79, UG Outlaw, Fat Chinese Gaming. Thank you so much to our members, as well as our Super Chat heroes for November 2018. Super Chat heroes and members going above and beyond for the GeauxBurns Nation. Alright, so I'm going to turn the volume for the game down a little bit. I'm going to turn it down like half strength. So that's my plan here. I'll see right now Arthur is my husband. Everyone has to go. Carlene fell in love with Arthur. Carlene. Well, I mean, that's much better than some of your other previous choices for potential boyfriend-husband material. So I will prop you for that. Anyways, I jumped into a sub-chat in Discord for anyone that wishes to join in the Discord with the discuss for spoilers regarding Red Dead Redemption 2. And the plan is to go chapter by chapter. Some chapters we'll probably get through a lot quicker, and some chapters we may take some time on. Now, here's a major spoiler right now. In case you didn't know it, you end up playing as John Marston. That's right. You end up being John Marston again. Yes, you do. So that's something a lot of people were happy about. It's something that I think a lot of us theorized, that very similar to Red Dead Redemption, and I'm assuming that a lot of you watching right now also played Red Dead Redemption, or at least know how Red Dead Redemption goes down. And there's Rufus, another spoiler. Yes, Rufus, he arrives in the epilogue. Jack's faithful companion, his best friend, and in my opinion, the best dog in Red Dead Redemption 2. Right there. A little bit younger Rufus. He's younger than we find. We were introduced to him in Red Dead Redemption. So there's Rufus. Loyal dog of the Marston family. And of course, Beecher's Hope, a major thing of importance. We learn more about that in the epilogue. But we're not going to start at the epilogue as we gallop down to, well, New Austin. Let's go down to New Austin. We'll do that. Yes. First I need to put on John's signature hat. Okay, so let's get going, shall we? And by the way, chat, you're more than welcome to chime in the chat with your thoughts about chapters, characters you liked, you didn't like, things you thought could have gone a little bit differently in Red Dead Redemption 2, how you thought things were going to go. Feel free and partake in the conversation. This is why it's called a discuss series, because we discuss it. I discuss it, and I welcome your thoughts, views, and opinions as well. So we'll start off with Chapter 1. Really not much to go over with Chapter 1. It's set in 1899, and most of the game is set in 1899, chapters 1 through 6. The epilogue is actually set in 1907, a few years later. So Chapter 1, you start the game with the surviving members of the Vanderlyn gang going up the mountains in the snow following the infamous Blackwater Massacre. And one of the things that surprised me from the very beginning of the game... Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, Micah. One step at a time, Micah. One step at a time. We're at Chapter 1 right now. One of the things that surprised me was the fact that we did not get to see or be part of the botched robbery in Blackwater that led to a massacre. We hear about it. See, Ishmael, what's up, Ishmael? You're not a mod, Ishmael, so you don't have commands, so there's no point in doing that. But thanks for the likes. Appreciate the likes. Very thoughtful, very considerate. But anyway, so yeah, the botched robbery. We only hear about it from Arthur's point of view, from what people tell him. From what Little Dutch tells him, from what some of the other characters have told him. But obviously, it went bad, and there's some speculation that there might have been a setup going on. Yeah. Let's see, Prestige. Just never stayed at the Blackwater job. Well, we're assuming that retconning it, that the Blackwater Massacre and the Blackwater job are one and the same. So let's just say that it's one and the same. They both happened in 1899. And I know there's going to be something we're going to talk about in 1906. I know you brought that up, but right now we're focusing on Chapter 1. Attempting to, anyways. Now, this is another spoiler. Thieves Landing is not as well built as you think it would be. So this is 1907 Thieves Landing. You think that, you'd have the brothel right there. You'd have the saloon right there already. You'd have the gun store over there. But they're not here until another 4 years, which really doesn't make any sense. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm already getting a little carried away. I'm trying to focus on Chapter 1. All right, so yes, we don't really get to witness the Blackwater Massacre or robbery firsthand. It's just we hear about it. The other one is we find out about John's scars. It's like, do you want to know how I got these scars? And we find out that he was attacked by wolves while scouting up in the mountains, and obviously he is saved by Arthur Morgan. So we finally find out, because for years that was one of the things that people speculate about, like, okay, how did John get those scars? Because obviously they're not birthmarks. I always thought it was a bear or a cougar that got him. I didn't think it was like somebody that captured him and started torturing him and started like cutting him with a knife. I always thought it was some sort of animal attack, but I always theorized that maybe it was a cougar, but it turns out it was actually a wolf that did that to him up in the Grizzlies. Let's see your sad. Okay, we'll get to that as well, Dr. Cheats. I'm trying to keep this in some sort of chronological order, even though it's not going to work out that way most likely. But I'm going to try, though. See, Carlene, I kind of got some information from the robbery, how it was planned through Arthur's journal. Yeah, I read through the journal as well via the Red Dead Redemption 2 companion app. And the fact that Arthur and Hosea had something else planned, but it was really like the robbery was more of Micah and Dutch's idea. And while they were doing one thing, Hosea and Arthur, you had the other guys doing something else, the robbery. I see Prestige, I thought it was a bear as well. Yeah, I mean, it's cool to have that answer, even though it really wasn't necessary. But we now know exactly what caused John to have that lovely, you know, addition to his face, right? Does your money, you say, from Arthur go to John? No. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're still on Chapter 1. And we're about to be wrapped up with Chapter 1, because mostly Chapter 1 is the tutorial. You learn a little bit about the characters. Not as much until, say, Chapter 2. A lot of it you really do have to spend time with some of the characters, talk to them, greet them, because there are things that I'm obviously going to miss. But I'll try to go over as much as I can. And if there's something I miss, you guys are more than welcome to bring it up in the chat. Now, here's another spoiler. McFarland Ranch. Not fully built yet. I mean, the barn's not there, and a few other things are missing from McFarland Ranch. But this is, once again, 1907 McFarland Ranch, not 1911. So, in 4 years' time, Thieves Landing gets built up, and McFarland Ranch gets built up. And I feel like that 4 years is, like, that's, back then, I mean, things could have been built today a lot quicker than back then. So I feel like Thieves Landing, like I said a moment ago, and I'll talk more about this later, I feel like Thieves Landing should have already been fully built up. And I don't know why Rockstar made the decision to not have Thieves Landing already established with the brothel and the bar, the saloon, the gun store. But that's also an issue with Blackwater. Blackwater is not fully built up either. In 1899, I understand that, but in 1907, I feel like it should look a lot more like the Blackwater of 1911. Yes, Romero, very funny. Ha ha ha. Very fucking funny. We know that already. Okay, so anyway, so that's basically Chapter 1. If there's anything else about Chapter 1 you guys want to bring up, feel free to do so. So yeah, we don't get to actually witness or be part of the Blackwater robbery massacre of 1899. We just hear about it, the aftermath, and we find out about John's scars. And we get introduced to the main members of the Van der Linde gang. Well, why don't you fuck off? Here's a thought. You're going to be an asshole to me. You know what? You can fuck off, Romero. There you go. Fuck you, jerk. See, John, how do you know the year? It's already been confirmed it's 1907, plus you go by Jack's age. So, yeah, Jack is 12 years old in the epilogue timeline. And, let's see, that means, let's see, it's numbers, it's math, and I've already looked over it as well. And I thought it was either 1906 or 1907, but it's confirmed that it's 1907, so the epilogue timeline is 1907. So, anyways, that's Chapter 1. Moving on to Chapter 2. Okay, so, anyways, Chapter 2. We, do the tutorial. We rob a train, and we get a little bit of money, and we end up going down to Valentine. So Valentine is in New Hanover. That's the first region we end up at. That's, nice, besides the snow. And there's a little bit more tutorial going on. We get to know some of the members of the Van der Linde gang a little bit more. Oh yeah, before Romero's being a jerk-off as usual, I was going to mention that we are introduced to Sadie in Chapter 1. So we get introduced to her. And what happens to her husband. Obviously he gets killed by the Driscolls, and she probably has some pretty bad stuff happen to her as well. So basically, Dutch, Arthur, and Micah save Sadie. Even though Micah probably wouldn't have really cared to save her. But, okay, so let's just say Dutch and Arthur save Sadie. I'm not really a fan of Micah. And we'll talk more about Micah throughout this Discuss live stream. So, yeah, Chapter 2, we do learn a little bit more about some things going on. We're introduced to some of the antagonists, including the heads of the Pinkertons. Well, maybe they're not the heads of the Pinkertons, but they're the main Pinkertons we come across throughout the events of Red Dead Redemption 2, Chapter 2 through 6. Agent Milton, and of course, his second-in-command, Agent Ross. And we know of Agent Ross from Red Dead Redemption. He's the main antagonist of Red Dead Redemption. Of course, in 1911, he's actually working for the federal government, but in 1899, there is no federal agency, and Ross is at the time working for the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and he's second in command to Milton. And we're also introduced to another antagonist, Cornwall, who is this rich tycoon, millionaire, captain of industry. He's like I guess you could say like a Morgan, not Arthur Morgan, but various like Carnegie or Rockefeller type. So yeah. So there's definitely comparisons there between Cornwall and some of these various captains of industry that we know of from the 1800s period that ended up being ridiculously rich and probably did some very shady things in order to become extraordinarily wealthy and powerful. Let's see, and the Driscolls. Yeah, we talked about the Driscolls just a moment ago. Oh yeah, we're introduced to Kieran. We captured Kieran, or Kieran. I think it's Kieran. He's a former member of the Driscolls, and he eventually joins the Vanderlyn gang. I don't know if he really joins the Vanderlyn gang, but he becomes kind of like an honorary member of the Vanderlyn gang. And Archangel, what's up, Archangel? And bear in mind, guys, we are talking about spoilers. So yes, we are talking about spoilers. And Philip, you like Red Dead Redemption 1 better than Red Dead Redemption 2? Well, I like them both. I like them both. I think they're two fantastic games, and I've enjoyed both. There are some mechanics I liked about Red Dead Redemption more than Red Dead Redemption 2, but back to spoilers. So, yeah, regarding Ross, I felt like adding Ross was unnecessary because we only see Ross a few times, and most of the time he's just, like I said, he's Milton's second-hand command. He's just hanging out. You're right, Prestige. I was going to get to that. Thank you. And you guys are welcome to mention things that I may miss in during these chapter discussions. So yeah, Kieran does save Arthur, and that kind of sort of makes him accepted by the Vanderlyn gang. I don't know if we ever make him an official member of the gang. He's more of an honorary member, I suppose. He does seem to be really sweet on Mary Beth. And the feeling seems to be mutual from the times I walked around the camp listening to dialogue. So there seemed to be some sort of budding romance there. It doesn't work out, though. But regarding Agent Ross, I felt like it wasn't really necessary to have Agent Ross there, especially since we only see him for like a few scenes. And he only has a little bit of dialogue. But what I do find interesting about Agent Ross is the fact that him and Jack Marston actually meet for the very first time at a river, because Arthur ends up taking Jack fishing, and that's when we're introduced to Agent Milton and Agent Ross. And as some of you know from Red Dead Redemption, the last time that Jack and Ross meet is also at a river. Not the same river, but it felt kind of fitting and poetic that they would meet for the first time and the last time at a river. So I thought that was kind of poetic there. We got more tutorials as well regarding Red Dead Redemption 2, and there was a lot of tutorials in this game, and I guess it was necessary because of the fact that there's just so many things you have to learn. And like I mentioned a moment ago, there are things I definitely liked better in Red Dead Redemption, like the inventory screen. I like the inventory screen much better than these multiple wheels, because the multiple wheels take a little bit of getting used to. So that's another issue, because you have to get used to the fact that you're having to do an R1, L1, then R2, L2 for separate things. So it took me a little bit of trial and error to finally get a grasp on it. Yeah, the money laundering from Strauss as well. That was another thing. Strauss was another character we were introduced to, member of the Vanderlyn gang, and I didn't really like Strauss too much. I'm sure most of you didn't really care for Strauss either. So yeah, another faction in the that we learn about later on in the epilogue. Well, as you venture down into New Austin and the Armadillo region is the Del Lobos. We'll talk about the Del Lobos later. They're not very happy right now. They're coming after me. That's okay. They're gonna be like that? I'll just kill them all. Yeah. Well, just murder them. That's what you assholes get for interrupting my freaking Discuss live stream. Jerks. We haven't gotten to that yet, Tank. We're going one chapter at a time and trying to, so that'll happen in a little bit. I'm going to try and go over the fates of all the members of the Vanderlyn gang as well as other characters we do come across. So it's interesting because the world technically opens up for you once you get to what, Horseshoe Overlook, outside of Valentine. And that's cool. So you could go to almost anywhere except for basically 2 states. Well, I don't know. I think there's parts of West Elizabeth you can venture to, but the Red Dead Redemption parts, like Blackwater, the Great Plains, Tall Trees, and of course New Austin, you cannot go to from chapters 1 through 6 without basically getting an insta-kill, without having like lawmen and bounty hunters and probably Pinkertons just almost insta-killing you. So I found that very interesting. And it does remind me a lot of how some of the old Grand Theft Auto games were. Like, say, Grand Theft Auto 3 or Vice City or Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Because you technically could go to the other islands. But if you try to go to the other islands on the map too early, before you were able to, before you unlocked them, yeah, you would get an instant, like, 6-star level. And the police would come after you and murder you. So it reminds me very much of the old 3D Grand Theft Auto games whenever you were trying to venture down into Tall Trees or Great Plains, or even... I never even made it to New Austin, to be honest. I made it like halfway through the Great Plains before they got me. I mean, it was just almost a fight nonstop. I mean, I was trying to be smart, too. I was trying to, like, move around. And I did a lot of this off-stream. But, yeah, it didn't work out so well for me. So, yeah, that was another interesting thing about how they give you, like, full access to the map, but not really. So that's basically, I think, everything that transpires in Valentine. Oh, yeah, that's when you're introduced also to Cornwall. Like I mentioned, he's the captain of industry. Oh, and another character, Mary Linton. Mary Linton was one of the former romance interests of Arthur Morgan, who is the protagonist you play as, obviously. And you have the option to spend some time with her to go help her brother out. Her brother becomes a member of a cult similar to the Epsilon program, except for they kind of have a thing for turtles. But anyways, it's one of those optional things. You don't have to go help her, but I kind of like being able to go and get to know her a little bit more, because you learn more about her, and at the same time you learn a little bit more about Arthur and the fact that there was this point in Arthur's life where Arthur could have, did something a little bit different. He could have made some different choices and ended up with Mary. But unfortunately, his code, his desire to be part of the Vanderlyn gang, because it was Dutch and Hosea that basically saved him from a very young age. So he sees them as father figures, and he just has this very strong loyalty to the gang, and that's what ultimately I feel like sealed his fate. Well, and his future with Mary Linton. What's up, Kane? How's it going? I say, Carly, I didn't really like the love interest in the story. Yeah, I felt like it was kind of cliche, but there's a lot of that happens. But yeah, I really wish it would have gone differently. But anyway, so that's basically chapter 2. And once again, if I'm missing anything, feel free and chime in the chat. And Kane, you're welcome to join in the Discord if you want. Let me think real quick. What else did I want to mention about Chapter 2? Oh, yeah, in Chapter 2, of course, you spend some time in New Hanover, and eventually you have to leave. So a lot of the game is like each chapter you find the camp moving or relocating or going to a different location. So you start off up in the mountains in the Grizzlies, and eventually you move down near Valentine, and that's throughout Chapter 2. And Nathan, what's up, Nathan? Bazaar, hello, Bazaar. How's it going? We'll get to that in a little bit. We're trying to go in chronological order with the spoilers, even though obviously a pretty big spoiler right now, as most of you noticed, I'm playing as John Marston.
Hello.
Hey, Kane,
Hello.
what's up?
Right. Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Before we continue,
Nice,
Kane,
nice.
I'm going to give you an opportunity
Yeah.
to mention anything you'd like to say about chapters 1 or 2 while
Sure,
I
sure
gallop
thing.
around and have a drink of tea. So I went over the basic stuff, post Blackwater, the fact we weren't really witness to it. We heard about it, but we didn't get to partake in it. John's scars, how he got the scars. Meeting Milton, Ross, Cornwall, Mary Linton. Yeah, okay. So anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I mean, I like chapter one and like how it makes the Blackwater heist sort of a mystery, and people sort of like gather what might have happened. You know, who the characters that died down there were. And I find it interesting about that.
Yeah.
When we go to the house, and then that's where we find Sadie.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing with Sadie's character, I don't really like her, to be honest. I found her voice too annoying. That's just my opinion.
Wow, you're just against somebody because of their accent. That's just rude.
But she
fuck yeah.
I mean, yeah, she's a good character, but her voice is annoying. I don't know how to describe it. But I do like it how, she goes from being a normal everyday citizen of society to now a fucked up individual who's doing heists with Dutch and Arthur and all that.
All right, so anyways, real quick, guys, you have no idea how long I was venturing around New Austin last night trying to find one of these fucking Gila monsters, and I just found one. Anyways, so yeah. I swear, I spent hours last night roaming around New Austin trying to find one. I just happened to stumble across one right now while you were talking. But I like, we'll talk more about Sadie in a little bit, but I personally like Sadie. At first, she does take a little bit of getting used to, but she does grow on me. But anyways, what are your thoughts about Chapter 2?
Chapter 2 I really enjoyed, especially that mission where Arthur and Lenny are at the bar and...
Oh yeah, I remember that scene.
The best mission.
Yeah, that was what Carlene said in Discord. Her Friday feeling was her and Lenny just having a really good time getting shit-faced while Micah's sitting in jail. And to be honest, I wish we would have just left Micah in jail, but unfortunately we didn't really have that choice. But we'll talk more about Micah throughout the Discuss live stream today. But yeah, he's definitely my least liked character in the game. And it's weird because Rockstar has a way of even making characters that are antagonists likable to some degree, but I felt like that there was nothing about Micah I liked. Was there anything about Micah you liked?
I mean, I guess I kind of liked one of his revolvers. I liked the design on.
Yeah, the revolvers were the only cool thing about Micah. And
other than that,
and maybe his jacket. His jacket was kind of cool, like that leather jacket he has. That's kind of cool, but that's about it. You could take those.
I mean, later on in the story, I find it really fucking annoying, and even with the plot twist at the end, it didn't really surprise me.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. We're still venturing over into Chapter 3. First off, let's read what Chad has to say. Noah, in his journal, he writes about Arthur was also in love with Abigail, but he was in love with several women: Mary Linton, Abigail, and there's also another girl we'll talk about as well briefly in a little bit. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but yeah, it is in his journal how he had a thing for Abigail. But I don't think that was really necessary. My poor horse. He ran into a cacti. Let's see. Carlene, it needs to be a gif. Yep. You should walk into that room and see Lenny on top of... Yeah, that was so weird, that Lenny scene. It took me a few minutes to figure out like what the fuck was going on. Because Arthur was just so shit-faced that he was seeing Lenny everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What's going on? But... Anyway, so that's pretty much Chapter 2. So we'll move on to Chapter 3, which takes place in Lemoyne around New Roads. So anything you'd like to say about New Roads before... I mean, roads, not New Roads, just roads. It's not new, it's just roads. So what was your thoughts about Chapter 3?
Chapter 3, I find it interesting because, Dutch, Arthur, and most members of the gang, I don't know whether it's just Dutch and Arthur, but I think there's someone else that's also involved playing Sheriff Grey, but I like it how we're undercover as deputy sheriffs. It gives us a little bit of a funny dialogue towards, the sheriff, and also that fucking scene where, we just finished fishing with Hosea and Dutch and Arthur, and they're all just singing on their way back.
Yeah, it's funny because I chose not to do that because at the time I was annoyed with the fishing mechanics. I've gotten kind of used to the reeling in part, but it's just annoying having to use the analog stick, and I really didn't want to have to endure that. But I heard it was a really good scene, and whenever I play through on Xbox One, I'll probably check it out.
Yeah, so, it's funny the way they're all singing.
Yeah, but I heard it was a funny scene between him and Dutch and Hosea.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had two main factions, the Braithwaites and the Greys, and like Kane said. I did like the fact that for a short time you actually had a badge. And I came across a criminal, a prisoner that escaped. You know, he was in, you know, the typical black and white striped outfit. So I catch him, right? And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm deputy sheriff. And I'm still in the region near roads. If I catch him and I put him on my horse, I wonder if I can take him back to, like, jail in New Roads and maybe get a reward or something. And so I hog tie him. I put him on the back of my horse. And someone comes by and basically I get a kidnapping, like, alert. Like, you're kidnapping somebody. And I'm just sitting there. I even screenshot it and I sent it on Twitter. And I'm like, what the hell? I have a badge on. The guy hogtied on my freaking horse is clearly an escaped convict. And I'm being accused of freaking kidnapping? Are you kidding me, video game? I mean, I love Rockstar, and this is a fantastic game. But there's some things that happen in this game, and people always talk about, well, there's so much things you can do, and Rockstar thought about all these different things, and if you think about doing it, you can do it. I'm like, well, what if you wanted to you capture the escaped convicts?
Yeah.
Because there's a few of them you come across. You know, I think that Rockstar should have anticipated that and, you know, made that like an instant bounty reward. Like, okay, and then it would automatically like give you a waypoint to the nearest jail, right? All right, take this prisoner to the sheriff's office here in Rhodes or whatever town you happen to be near, and you get like maybe $25 for it. But unfortunately, you get accused of kidnapping. Go figure. And the other thing that I'd like to mention real quick about Rhodes, well, two things, is the Romeo-Juliet arc that I knew was going to happen. The moment I was reading about, you know, the different towns off the website, you know, when I did a video about that a while back, and they talked about how there were two factions in Rhodes, the, you know, Greys and the Braithwaites. I knew that there was going to be some sort of discount Romeo-Juliet arc. And sure enough, there was. And they even, like, Arthur even jokingly, you know, talks about that. And I do like the fact that they had that little fourth wall moment there. But at least they had a happy ending. So it didn't end the same way for Romeo and Juliet. So I'm glad Penelope and Beau actually get to actually eventually help them get away. But that's not late. That's later on. Like, I think in chapter 6, I think.
Yeah, I think it is chapter 6 where it happens.
Yeah, but, you know, I do like that. So it was nice that they finally got out of Dodge while they still could. But thoughts about anyone else regarding chapter 3 before we move on? Silence.
Silence, other than fireworks in the background.
Yeah, I mean, so most of you know what happens. What happens is the Vanderlyn gang tries to take advantage of both the Braithwaites and the Greys in order to get their money. But it turns out the Braithwaites and the Greys really don't have money. And the Braithwaites and the Greys are actually using the Vanderlyn gang. And then unfortunately, Sean is the first victim to go. Now, we heard about several characters that were members of the Vanderlyn gang getting captured or killed in Blackwater. But we never get to meet them, like the Calendar Boys, Jenny, and I think there's one other character we don't get introduced to. But those are the...
I swear it was Mac as well. Was it Mac?
I think he's one of the Calendar Boys. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't get to see them or spend any time with them, but they all get killed. And actually, Jenny was a love interest for Lenny, and there was a joke about, you know, how that wouldn't work out because their names rhyme. But like Lenny was apparently sweet on Jenny, but unfortunately, Jenny was one of the 3 that died during the Blackwater massacre. Let's see, Prestige Gamer sees that me or does every Rockstar game have holes in its mechanics? Well, let's just be fair. That's just the case for almost every game. Rockstar does a better job, but they're not perfect. And so, it's just the way it is. The whole deputy thing was a bit annoying. Yeah, no, I felt like it was like you were nothing more than just walking around with a badge, and it didn't really mean anything. Because I thought that, oh, cool, during this time period, you actually get to be a deputy sheriff, and you actually get to do stuff as a deputy. And that's one reason why I thought it'd be kind of cool to capture that prisoner, because that would be something that a deputy sheriff would do. But it didn't really work out that way. Let's see. Red 5 Motors, what's up? Hope you're doing well as well. Good to see you. He said hi to Kane and me, so hello.
Hello. Hello, Red.
All right, so once again, well, the gang is forced to flee. From Rhodes, from Oh dear, poor Rachel.
Rip.
Come on, Rachel, get up. I didn't name this horse because John already named her, and I wasn't about to rename her Galaxy Traveler. I didn't want to get on John's bad side. I mean, if he wants to call his horse Rachel, then that's John's priority. His prerogative, yes. So yeah, once again, the camp has to move. Each chapter this happens, basically, they move. And sometimes twice during a chapter. So they move to this other plantation. They burned down a plantation, the Braithwaites. And I was surprised, one more thing I want to move on. I was surprised that Rockstar actually went there when it came to the way things were back in the 1800s with racism and intolerance. I'm actually surprised that they didn't try to water that down. Because a lot of times in their video games, they don't really touch on that too much.
Yeah.
But they did go there. They did show how the Lemoyne Raiders were a bunch of former Confederate racists. They even had several like random encounters with the Klan out there, and I always killed them whenever I saw the Klan. Always murdered them.
I remember there was also, I think it's in Valentine, Arthur can actually meet someone who was like on the U.S. side of the
Union soldier. Yeah, there's a Union soldier that's a beggar in Valentine, and I think there's a Confederate soldier that's a beggar in Rhodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do encounter several beggars, you know, that were former soldiers, and they're each giving their own opinion about, you know, what their thoughts about the Civil War. Let's see. Noah, I thought Arthur getting kidnapped was very unnecessary. Yes. When does that happen, the kidnapping of Arthur by the Driscolls?
I think it's chapter 4. I think it is.
Okay, we'll talk about that in chapter 4. If we're wrong about that, I apologize. Yeah, they did. They also talked about women's suffrage. And all these things today we find ridiculous. And check out this dust storm. This dust storm is freaking epic. I came across this yesterday and actually did a screenshot, and I have it for the thumbnail for today's video. But I thought it was a really good dust storm. It's especially more epic when you're actually going into the dust storm and not away from the dust storm. But yeah, the women's suffrage movement, that's just something else. It seems like a no-brainer to us today. That of course women are equals. Of course women deserve the right to vote and be treated with respect and equality. But unfortunately back then that wasn't the case. And as they pointed out, women were harassed, and even a lot of bad things happened to members of the suffrage movement in real life.
Yeah.
And they even allude to the fact that some of the women were actually killed. But yeah, it is interesting some of the things that Rockstar was willing to bring to the forefront, you know, historically regarding the time period of Red Dead Redemption 2 compared to real life. Let's see, in Chapter 3 he recovers at the Camp Lake. Chapter 4 starts when they move to the house. Yeah, okay, so wait a minute. Yeah, so we are at, so this, yeah, you're right. Chapter 3's Rhodes, and we're going into Chapter 4. You're right, Chapter 4. And
Okay.
Chapter 4 is, let's see, it's one of the main hideouts for the Lemoyne Raiders, one of the gangs you encounter, the former, like, Confederates or Confederate wannabes. Chances are a lot of them probably didn't even fight for the Confederacy, but maybe their daddies did, or their uncles, and they just want to relive that quote-unquote glory. And so they run around in gray outfits and gray Civil War hats, and they act like that the Confederacy is going to rise again, but they're kind of pathetic. So we clear it. Lenny and Arthur clear out this other plantation, Shady Bell, I believe it's called, Shady Bell, and that becomes a temporary camp as well for the gang. Well, it's actually not too temporary because Chapter 4 is actually pretty long, and a lot of the story ends up taking place in 2 locations. Saint Denis, which is the big town on the map. It's based off of New Orleans, as well as La Grosse, which is the swampy area of Lemoyne. So a lot of the story does take place in the state of Lemoyne, which is based off of Louisiana, which is interesting because that's where I currently live. Well, not in New Orleans, but in, well, I got a skunk. Okay, so anyways, Kane, your thoughts regarding Chapter 4?
Well, for Chapter 4, I mean, I got through it pretty fast, and I did value the story where, like, you know, they were in Saint Denis, and they were, you know, befriending some rich dude.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, was this the chapter where Jack goes missing, or was it Chapter 5, Jack goes missing?
That's a good point. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. At the end. Okay. That's another thing I need to write down. I should have wrote down. Okay. At the end, near the end of chapter 3, the Braithwaites kidnap Jack, and that's what pisses off the entire gang, and they rally together. And throughout the entire game, the gang is slowly falling apart because Dutch is starting to go crazy. He's starting to lose it. And Micah's not really helping in that regard. We'll talk more about that later on. But so the Braithwaites decide to kidnap Jack. And that's what motivates Dutch to rally the troops together. And they go to the Braithwaite Manor, and there's a big firefight that takes place, and the Braithwaite Manor gets burned to the ground by the Vanderlyn gang. But it turns out that Jack was sent down to Saint Denis to an Italian crime boss named Bronte. And he's one of the characters we're introduced to in Chapter 4. Bronte, including several Native Americans. Rainsfall, the chief of the tribe that we are involved with further on in the game, along with his son, Eagle Flies, yes. Rainsfall, who's voiced by the legendary Graham Greene, and Eagle Flies, his son. So, yeah, that's basically the premise of where we are in Chapter 4. Now, the issue I have whenever something is involved with, like, for example, Jack, or, say, John, or Abigail, or even Uncle, or, those characters specifically, it doesn't really, like, draw me the way you think it would. It doesn't pull me. Because since I played Red Dead Redemption, I know that, by 1911, they're okay. They're still alive in 1911. So I'm not worried about, something happening to Jack. Like the game is trying to make you feel worried about it because it's a prequel. So you're not. Did you feel invested in that whole scenario? I mean, I could, from like the gang's point of view, yeah, I understand. I know that they would be emotionally attached because they're in the moment. They're not looking at it the same way we are. They're living in the moment. They're afraid something's going to happen to Jack, especially Abigail and John.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, when I when we get to that arc about chapter of Jack going missing, I do think that maybe that might have what motivated Jack not only because he had to go later on in Red Dead Redemption to go avenge his father, but also to make him the man he becomes later on. Like it sort of toughens him up. It does.
Yeah, but at the time I feel like Jack was so young in 1899 that he may have some memories of some of them in 1899. But for the most part, we find out that he's actually treated pretty well by Bronte. Bronte didn't do anything bad to Jack. He actually, gave him some toys. He had his own room. He was fed spaghetti. So he wasn't really mistreated by Bronte. But you do a mission for Bronte. You end up getting Jack back. And you end up doing some more stuff for Bronte. And then, surprise, surprise, Bronte betrays you.
Yeah.
How old is Jack? Jack is 5 years old in 1899. He was born in 1894, if I remember correctly, Carlene.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jack is only like 5-6 years old. He's not very old. So, I mean, that's about the time you start remembering things. I mean, some people, I guess, have better memories. But that's about the time I started really remembering stuff. But, yeah, so you get Jack back, and then you start working on schemes to try and make more money in Saint Denis. Because you're trying to escape the Vanderlyn gangs being pursued by the Pinkertons, by Cornwall, by law enforcement, by bounty hunters, by almost everybody. and Dutch keeps telling everybody, okay, stay with me, keep the faith. We're going to do one more robbery, one more heist, and we're going to have enough money to leave. We're going to go to Tahiti. We're going to go to Australia. We're going to go wherever. We're going away. Even though at first the plan was to go back out west, but that kind of fell through. And that's all Arthur wants. Arthur wants to go back out west because that's where he felt more comfortable. He doesn't like civilization.
Yeah.
But, so they keep getting pushed further and further east by law enforcement. And, of course, the robberies, once again, in Saint Denis do not go as planned. For one thing, the trolley robbery, which was recommended by Bronte, turns out to be a setup. So, But, Dutch, Lenny... Okay.
I remember doing that mission for the first time, and I was like, something does seem a little bit off because if you rob like a a little train station, there's usually not that much debt
Yeah.
in like the old. I mean, at least a couple dollars, but
Yeah.
pretty much it's dirt poor down there.
Yeah. Well, another way to look at it is the fact that I think that's the main station for the trolley line in Saint Denis, and that's where people would go to buy the tickets. So you can imagine with a town like Saint Denis, a pretty big city for back then, that hundreds of people every day were using the trolley system. So it was probably a good business to be in. Even today, it's a good business. I'd speculate.
Yeah.
So it wasn't out of the realm of possibilities to imagine that all the money from the trolley lines, because whenever you would get on a trolley, you would pay the driver, right? The conductor.
Yeah.
You would give them, 5 cents or whatever it cost to get on the trolley. And then, of course, all that money has to go somewhere. And whenever they get back to the station, you imagine that they would just give that money to the manager at the station, and then they would put it in the safe. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities to imagine that there should have been a considerable amount of money in that safe whenever they went to rob it. And I think it was Dutch, Lenny, and Arthur, right? I think it was those three.
Yeah, I think of them three. Either that or Hosea, I think it was. I'm not sure.
No, I don't think Hosea was involved. I think it was just Dutch, Lenny, and Arthur, if I remember correctly. So anyways, long story short, the robbery, as most of you know, does not go according to plan. It was a setup. Like, most of the Saint Denis police forces there, and Arthur, Lenny, and Dutch have to fight their way out. And they have to get on a trolley, which is kind of a cool scene. I like the trolley scene.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. And then the trolley crashes, and then they have to escape by foot.
I like that. I like the mission because of how fun it was. But
yeah,
I mean, after we know that we got set up, it isn't really that good.
Yeah, I agree. And somewhere along the way, Colm Driscoll, the leader of the Driscoll gang, which is up.
Oof.
Aww.
What happened?
I killed Rachel.
Aw.
Let's see if I can
Okay.
I'm gonna go to previous loads. Hold on. See, the problem is I don't have my earpods in, so I can't hear the fucking game. We'll just go to the last autosave. That was that was a few minutes ago now, wasn't it? Ah, damn it. Oh well, rip Rachel. I can't even save her with a. I'll just, we'll just get the saddle. Fuck it. She's dead.
You can find another horse, GB.
Well, at least she wasn't Galaxy Traveler. So there.
And if it's a male horse, you can call it Arthur.
No, I would call it Galaxy Traveler.
Aw.
So we lost Rachel on the account that I didn't hear the train. I saw the train earlier, but I didn't hear the train because I don't have my earpods in. I hear Kane, but I don't hear the train. So in other words, I will blame this on Kane.
Hey.
But what's funny is I did lose Galaxy Traveler a few times, not like maybe twice throughout the game with Arthur, and I would intentionally quit the game in order not to lose the damn horse. So this is another thing that does happen. You can lose your horse. So yeah, it is a very realistic thing that transpires, and that's something else we're going to talk about in Chapter 6. So Arthur gets kidnapped by the Driscolls. It was a setup by Colm. You can't really fast travel anyways, Wildman. But, well, you can it's like a one-way fast travel you built up via the camp. And eventually Beecher's Hope. But the fast travel system only works like through the train system, stagecoaches, as well as the, like I mentioned, from your camp or else from Beecher's Hope later on in the epilogue. But so Arthur gets kidnapped. He gets beaten pretty badly. Left, going to be used by Colm as a distraction, or not as a trap for Dutch. Because he thinks that Dutch is going to come rescue Arthur. Turns out that's not really the case. Because I don't think Dutch is really caring anymore for anybody. Well, he's starting not to. Because him and
signs after getting stranded on the island in Chapter 5.
Yeah. Okay. So that we haven't got there yet. So, anyways, after Arthur gets back, I don't know if we could have this whole thing botched, the timeline here. I should have done a better job. I'm sorry. I wonder if I can actually get on one of these horses. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but whatever.
Maybe.
Let's take this horse. My horse now. You're mine.
Yay.
I'm at Ridgewood Farms stealing a horse. There we go. You're mine now. In the middle of the night, I went to Ridgewood Farms and I took a horse. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened at Ridgewood Farms, by the way. It's not the worst thing. That happens in Red Dead Redemption. So a horse magically going missing in the middle of the night is small potatoes. Fortunately, it was a domestic horse. It wasn't one of the wild horses, so I'm able to easily bond with it. I will miss Rachel, though. Rachel was a nice horse, and she's gone. Oh, well, it means I can name this Galaxy Traveler now. But anyway, so now we're at the bank robbery. The infamous bank robbery of Saint Denis, and that also doesn't go well. Because apparently the Pinkertons show up rather quickly, even though Hosea and Abigail set up a distraction. Hosea is still caught, though. And unfortunately, Hosea and Lenny end up being killed in the Saint Denis bank robbery. And yeah, that sucked. I mean, both cases, because I grew to like both Lenny and Hosea, and the way that Milton basically murders Hosea. Because Milton captures him and basically just shoots him in the back, and I'm just like,
yeah, when he just lets him bleed out, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean that was a very scum thing to do. I mean, you basically caught him. You didn't have to kill him, but he does.
Yeah.
And I think that is the beginning of the breaking point for Dutch, because like even though things are starting to fall apart between him and Hosea, they're still best friends. Oh, here's another lizard. They're still best friends, and you know he's still kind of Hosea's kind of his conscience in a way.
Yeah.
And once Hosea is gone, then he starts relying more on Micah, which becomes a serious issue. So anyways, Hosea gets killed by Milton. Lenny gets killed on top of a roof by, I guess, a Saint Denis police officer.
Yeah.
And the rest of them have to go into hiding. And let's see, Charles manages to distract the police and escape. Somehow Charles escapes. Charles has mad skills. He's a badass.
Yeah.
You know, half Native American, half African American. He's one of my favorite characters. He's actually one of my favorite characters in Red Dead Redemption 2.
He's a really good character.
Yeah, I like him. We'll talk more about. Yeah.
Alright, like in the beginning I wasn't getting the hang of him, but later on I started to think he was a great character.
Yeah, he is. In my opinion, he's a fantastic character. And so what happens is you have Bill Williamson, you have Javier, and one thing I did like is the fact that we do get to spend more time with Javier, because we learn a little bit about Bill Williamson in Red Dead Redemption, but not as much about Javier, because Javier only gets like one scene with John. Yeah. And I actually grew to like Javier in Red Dead Redemption 2. How did you feel about Javier?
I mean, in the original Red Dead Redemption, he was only in there for one scene, so I didn't really grew attached to him. I just thought, oh, hey, he's just another guy John's got to go kill before he goes kill Dutch. Yeah. But in this game, they thought of making him a good, an interesting character, and you know, doing activities with him as Arthur was pretty enjoyable. It was. Yeah, and there was a really cool scene. Dialogue. Yeah, there was a really cool scene back in Chapter 2 where I'm just riding around as Arthur, and all of a sudden Javier gallops, and this just happens. Javier gallops up to me, and he says that Bill Williamson has been captured, and I have the option to go help Javier rescue Bill or not. I mean, it's not a very difficult like submission, but it was just one of those organic things that happens. I mean, it wasn't organic, but it felt organic. But it was kind of a cool scene, and interesting how there seems to be some sort of bond between Javier and Bill Williamson. But at the same time, it does seem kind of weird now, trying to understand why Javier was so loyal. But I do like the fact that he got fleshed out, like Carlene just said. I like the fact that Javier got fleshed out a lot more in this game than he was in Red Dead Redemption. So, yeah. So anyways, Javier, Bill Williamson, Micah, Dutch, and Arthur have to escape aboard a ship.
And so they basically flee the country. And during one stormy night, a storm just happens to come and, I guess, seriously damages the ship. The ship sinks and ultimately leaves Arthur, Micah, Dutch, Javier, and Bill Williamson stranded on this island called Guarma. And it's an island off of Cuba, I believe. And this was something that I was surprised. I wasn't expecting this to happen. But Kane,
I originally actually thought it was Cuba until they said the island's name. I was like, oh shit, we're on Cuba.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, it's not Cuba then. Like, yeah. It looks like I honestly thought it was because they didn't really say that much. And...
Yeah, well, I think it's a fictional island too, so it's like a fictional island of Cuba. It doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But definitely has a Cuba vibe to it,
Yeah.
But like, it was like a really interesting decision by Rockstar with Chapter 5. A very interesting decision because I was not expecting, maybe they did that on purpose because they wanted you to be caught off guard, to not expect something like this to happen. Well, see, Tank, it felt like a different game once they got on the island. It did. It really did. I mean, it was a small island, but yeah, it just felt completely different going to Guarma.
Like I mean, I'm gonna say this: Guarma was fucking beautiful. It was.
It was.
Like, the scenery there, it was amazing.
It was.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I think there was
the waterfalls.
They had some unique animals there. They had parrots and iguanas. I think those are the only two unique animals. They had pigs, but pigs are all over the damn place, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
And okay, so the Dutch, let's see, Javier, Bill, and Micah and Arthur get captured temporarily, and then some resistance fighters on the island because the island's ran by a colonel, a Cuban colonel that you meet at the mayor's party in Saint Denis. You meet that's hosted by Bronte. Of course, you do kill Bronte. I forgot to mention that. You do get to get revenge on Bronte with the gang for the trolley setup. So yeah, Dutch gets pissed off about that. And there's always a struggle about not getting revenge. And you see more and more of Dutch starting to lose it and focusing more on revenge and then trying to escape and thinking about putting the gang first. And this is one of the examples and continuing conflict between Arthur and Dutch as that continues to grow and grow. But yeah, so you end up on Guarma, this strange island, and there's really not that much you can do on the island because I tried to explore it a little bit, and what happens is you get to certain parts of the island, and it's heavily patrolled by that colonel's soldiers, and basically they can just kill you at will. They insta-kill you with wave after wave of troops.
Yeah. Similar to how if you were to enter the Black Water before the epilogue.
Exactly. I talked about that earlier. The fact that there's parts of the map that... And I don't think this is Herbert Moon here. Yeah, I don't think this is Arthur Moon. I think this is somebody else. It doesn't look like Herbert Moon. Now, a lot of people were mentioning this photo. Somebody told me about the photo here, and it looks like the strange man from Red Dead Redemption. So for some reason, he has a it's like a little Easter egg. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this game.
Yeah.
But anyways, I decided to come in here real quick. But I don't think that's Herbert Moon. I think this is somebody else. I think he probably, if this guy dies of cholera and eventually Herbert Moon buys the place or something. I don't know. But yeah, the island doesn't last too long because eventually you help the resistance fighters, you get a boat, and you escape. And then you end up meeting back with the members of the gang. And this is when Sadie really starts to I guess rise up. You really start to see more of Sadie. You get a little bit more involved with Sadie, mission-wise, but she's starting to really shine because she and Charles are the ones that go back to Shady Belle, and they get everybody to escape Shady Belle and go up to LaGras in the middle of the swamp before the Pinkertons show up. I mean, the Driscolls already found the gang at Shady Belle. So
Yeah.
and in that fight, you really see Sadie starting to become more of a badass because she kills several Driscolls by herself. In fact, she loves using that knife. She runs some fools through with that knife. So yeah, that's Sadie for
Going
you.
knife only.
That's right. So she, of course, I mean, you don't blame her because of what the Driscolls did to her and did to her husband, you know. So she obviously has this serious vendetta against the Driscolls. Hold on, another monster. Nope, God damn it, Bo. Goodbye, monster. Gotcha. Yeah, Wildman, I agree. I feel like, in all honesty, even though I kind of liked Guarma, it was different. I felt like it was unnecessary. I felt like we didn't need it. I mean, what did you think of your thoughts about Guarma before we move on? Like, do you think that was good to have or not?
It basically is the North Yankton of this game. It's somewhere we go to for a little bit and then it's never seen again, pretty much.
Yeah, true.
That's the unfortunate part. This beautiful island's only used for like three or four missions, you know?
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen in Red Dead Online? People are going to complain. When do we get to go to Guarma, Rockstar? We want to go to Guarma. People are just going to make videos complaining about it. Oh, I want to go to Guarma. Let us go to Guarma, Rockstar.
Make fucking glitched videos on saying, oh, I know how to get to Guarma. But first, you want to join my free gift card giveaway? It's giving you all some fucking buffalo cards.
Yeah, whatever it is, buffalo cards. But I seriously doubt we'll get to go to Guarma. I mean, I'd be surprised if we could. I don't think there's any feasible way to get people to Guarma. But it was pretty. It was different, like you guys were talking about in chat. But we got a little bit of a short time of Guarma, and I think that was enough. I don't think we should have gotten any more time with Guarma than we did, because after a while you're wanting to get back to the mainland and back to your horse and back to everything else you left behind, including all the characters. So yeah, basically you get back and then you end up going up to near Ansburg and up in some caves, and you end up running into this gang called the Murphys, and the Murphys are freaking bunch of inbred nut jobs. I mean, those guys, that's like one of the scariest gangs in my opinion that you encounter.
They're too spooky for me.
They're a bunch of psychos. And the cool thing about the Murphys is you actually get a machete from them. So you get one by murdering one that happens to have a machete, and you get a machete. But those machetes are lethal. They come up to you with a machete, it's like a one-shot kill. Because I got killed by a machete, and then Charles got killed by a machete when I was trying to clean out the camp. It was intense. But yeah, so you move the camp up to near Ansburg and Van Horn, up in I guess the northeast region of the map. And this is going into chapter 6, which is probably the longest chapter. Well, yeah, it's that and the epilogue are probably the two longest chapters, I think, in the game. And this is obviously the epic finale. Oh yeah, you also find out once you get back from Guarma that Arthur has tuberculosis, the TB. Yeah. And he's dying. So
I think how he gets tuberculosis is was from one of the people he goes to collect the deaths from. Yeah,
I read that, and I think in the journal in the companion app, and you can also read through the journal in the game. But in the companion app, he does mention that the Downs guy, that he thinks that the Downs guy had tuberculosis, and while he was beating the crap out of him, he must have contradicted it. Yeah, right, Carlene. Yeah, from Mr. Downs. And of course, you also run into his wife and son in Ansburg as well, and it's the Downs boy that Arthur says that famous line to. You know, maybe after your mother's finished mourning your father, I'll keep her in black on your behalf. He was talking to the Downs boy. And that's early on in the game. After the Valentine robbery. Oh, yeah, the Valentine robbery actually happens in Chapter 3, not Chapter 2. Because, let's see, Bill, along with Lenny and Karen and Arthur, they go back to Valentine to rob the Valentine Bank. And they end up getting a pretty good amount of money from that robbery. And that's the only time you really do anything
That
with
heist
Karen.
really-
Yeah. That's like the only time that Karen ever does anything besides hang out at camp drinking. That's pretty much it. If I remember correctly. But, alright, back on Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the biggest one. And a lot of stuff goes down. We know that Arthur now has tuberculosis. Oh, yeah, and you do have the option later on, before Chapter 6, to actually go meet Mary again in St. Denis and help her out with her father. Or,
Yeah.
well, not exactly helping her father, but helping Mary. And then you can go to a show. The show I enjoyed. There's some... Rockstar did a good job with the various shows.
Yeah, one thing I also like about in that specific show mission, part of the mission, is that you can actually try and make a move on Mary as Arthur.
Yeah, it didn't work out for me. I think the problem was I tried too soon. But in the end, that was in vain, anyways. I knew it. I had a feeling it wasn't going to end with them happily ever after. I just had that feeling. It would have been cool if it did, though. But the moment you find out Arthur has tuberculosis, you're thinking one or two things. Either A, he's going to die, and you're going to end up playing as a new character for the final part of the game, similar to Red Dead Redemption. Or maybe Arthur ends up back out west here. And maybe, at the time, I was thinking that. Like, okay, maybe Arthur's going to survive the events, and he's just going to end up here. Because that's what happened with Doc Holliday in real life. That's why he ended up out in Arizona, in Tombstone, or New Mexico, in that region. Because that's what they prescribed for people that had tuberculosis back then. Because of the climate, it was more agreeable for people that had tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Tank Engine, I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that option to make a move. Yeah, to try to make a move on Mary. But yeah, and ultimately it doesn't work out because Mary sends Arthur a Dear John letter. And basically a Dear John letter is like when a breakup letter. So she's like, oh, I don't think it's going to work out between you and me, even though I love you and you love me. And I just think that it's just not going to happen. And so she gives him back his ring that he gave her years ago. So that's pretty much the end when it comes to Arthur and Mary, which sadly didn't really surprise me. But Ansburg, we learned a lot about Ansburg. Okay, so we do lose a few people along the way. First off, Molly, which was Dutch's love interest. She's from, I think, Dublin. And I think Chaotic was even excited about the fact that how accurate her accent is. And I think it's actually an actress from Ireland that voiced Molly. So credit to Rockstar for doing that. But it turns out she felt like Dutch was neglecting her. And you see several instances of that throughout the chapters where she's trying to talk to you or trying to talk to Dutch and he basically ignores her.
I think it's in I think in chapter 4 when before we find Kieran killed.
Oh yes, I forgot. All right, so yes, Kieran ends up dying, and his death is we don't see him die, but you see the aftermath of it. And that's when the Driscolls. I guess he told the Driscolls where the gang was. So either they beat it out of him, and I think that's probably what happens. They probably catch him and they probably torture him to the point where he has no choice but to tell him. And that's my speculation. I don't think he betrayed the camp, but I think he was probably caught by the Driscolls and tortured pretty badly. And then once he told them where they were, they basically ripped out his eyes and decapitated him and put his head. It was a pretty brutal, that scene whenever he was on horseback.
It's a messed up way to die. That is I remember seeing that scene and I literally paused it because I felt like I was going to be ill.
Yeah.
Because of how disgusting it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tank. I did mention Sean being killed in Rhodes. Yeah, his death was quick because they were just walking down the street and one of the Greys shot him in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Sean was the first to die, then Hosea, then Lenny, and then Kieran died. So yeah, 4 deaths happen, and then more deaths quickly happen in chapter 6. So it turns out Molly was talking to the Pinkertons, Milton and Ross. Heartbroken by Dutch neglecting her, and she ended up telling. I don't know if it turns out she's the actual rat or one of several rats, but she obviously openly confesses, to telling the Pinkertons everything. And for that, Miss Grimshaw shoots her with a shotgun. So
yeah,
she gets murdered by Miss Grimshaw. And I don't really blame Miss Grimshaw for doing that. And that was something else. Like, Miss Grimshaw really was a bitch.
Yeah.
She was really mean to Tilly and Mary Beth, but there's a scene where Tilly gets kidnapped, and Miss Grimshaw goes into like Mother Bear mode to protect Tilly. And it just surprises you because all the time she's yelling at Tilly back at camp, and then when Tilly gets kidnapped, she's like the one trying to rally the troops to go save Tilly.
She basically flip-flops, she does, from hating Tilly to just wanted to go help her. I don't know whether she wants the hero's welcome or it's just because she actually does deeply care for Tilly. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Miss Grimshaw has a tough kind of love attitude when it comes to Tilly and Mary Beth, which are the younger girls of the camp. But anyways, Molly gets killed. Oh yeah, King Easy says that Molly was not a rat. So, I mean, that was a confusing scene because I think later on, yeah, you're right, Milton does say that. And that's what confuses the fuck out of me. Like, apparently she was just drunk and she was just talking shit. But it felt like that they should have kept it. And that's how easily birds die in this game. No, it didn't die. Okay, he got away. Okay, I didn't want to kill it. But yeah, Molly was drunk at that scene, but at the time, I thought she was the rat. I thought that would have made sense, okay? Because you're always thinking it's other people that might be the rat. And I think honestly that should have been the way it was. I think it should have been Molly that was the rat. But it turns out she wasn't the rat. So that's the confusing part. Because you're right, I do remember that scene from because so much happens in this damn game. So much happens. But yeah, so Molly gets killed by Miss Grimshaw. And then several other deaths happens, including Eagle Flies, which is, like I mentioned, Rainfall's son. He ends up dying during this fight with the army. And it was sad because I really grew to like Rainfalls as a character. Voiced once again by the legendary Graham Greene. And there's a moment, I mentioned this on the ACG International podcast yesterday. One of my favorite moments in the game is just with him and Arthur. You know, they're going up the mountain, and Arthur actually opens himself up to Rainsfall and talks about his son. Because Arthur actually had a son. He met somebody, this is before Mary. He met another woman, and she got pregnant, and she actually had a son, and he would take care of him, stopping by every now and then to give them money and make sure they're taken care of. But unfortunately, they were killed by robbers.
Yeah. It is a shame that we never got to meet Arthur's son, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I think his son's name was Isaac, if I remember correctly.
I think it was. I think I'll replay that mission later on to find out what his name was.
Yeah, see, Tank Engine Jr. started disliking Bill when he was going around camp accusing John of being the rat. Oh yeah, that's another thing that happens at Saint Denis. John gets captured by the police, and basically later on, whenever Arthur and Sadie go behind Dutch's back to rescue John from the prison. He mentions how Dutch had an opportunity to rescue John, but Dutch doesn't. And so that's the first time Dutch basically leaves John for dead. Let's see, King Easy, you can meet Mary Beth at the train station in Valentine after you complete the game. She'll give you her book. Okay, well, we may go do that then. That's kind of cool.
And also, speaking of meeting characters after the end of the story, you can also meet, I think it's Rainfalls. You can meet Rainfalls at the train station in Vansburg.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so yeah, some characters obviously survive, and going back to the battle that happened that ends up resulting in the death of Eagle's Flies. Eagle Flies basically saves Arthur's life, because once again, Dutch does the same thing to Arthur that he does to John. Like Arthur gets captured in the near the end of the battle after they've gotten a whole bunch of bonds, and it's pretty clear that Dutch had a chance to shoot the guys that caught him, but he walks away. And he walks away. But then Eagle Fly shows up and saves Arthur, because earlier in the battle, Arthur saves Eagle. Well, Arthur and Charles saves Eagle Flies from Fort Wallace, or was it Fort Wallace? I think it's Fort Wallace. But he gets captured, and Charles and Arthur have to go save him, and so they do. But all this time, you have like Dutch encouraging Eagle Flies and other members of Rainfall's tribe to go on the warpath. And basically Dutch is just using them. Just like he's been using the gang. you know, just to make money in order to fulfill some sort of weird, like, Robin Hood-esque dream of eventually escaping, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of tribe members get killed, and a lot of members of the tribe are forced to flee, and Charles helps the tribe escape, I think, north, if I remember.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah. Let's see. Tank Engine Jr. started disliking Dutch once he left Arthur for dead, and Dutch just used the native tribe. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Charlotte, you're right. There are lines. We'll talk about post-game stuff in a minute, guys. You're getting ahead of us. You're getting ahead of us, okay? We're almost there. So anyways, so this is when the breaking point starts to really happen. You have the final train robbery. John's once again left for dead by Dutch. And at this point, oh yeah, before the train robbery, when John and Arthur go to blow up the bridge leading up to the train robbery, another train robbery, another GD train, as Arthur says. You have Arthur tell John those famous lines we hear from the first trailer of Red Dead Redemption 2, we get 2 years ago. You know, when the time comes, you got to run and don't look back because this is over. It turns out it's John he's talking to. And I think a lot of us speculated it might have been John that the character was talking to, and turns out it was. That he was telling John that he needed to get Abigail and Jack out of there because right now Arthur knows he's dying. He's trying to make things right. He's trying to find some sort of redemption, especially if you go white hat.
Yeah.
If you go white hat, yeah, he's trying to save people.
I mean, white hat's the best way to go. Yeah, being completely honest, it pays off in the end. It does.
I agree, and I think that's for me playing through that way. Even though the way they made Arthur's, where you could theoretically play him either way, white hat or black hat. I feel like he's better as a white hat. I feel like it makes more sense because you know he's dying, and it's no surprise he's dying. Even though you kind of hope he somehow manages to survive and end up out west, he doesn't. But let's see, he kicks Strauss out because he's tired of going and collecting debts and seeing the consequences of being a debt collector. And you see this.
And thinking about it, Strauss is technically the reason why Arthur got tuberculosis because he was sent to go do that debt job for him.
That's true. Yeah, the Downs guy and you find out his wife is now having to prostitute herself off in Ansburg, and her son's dying in the coal mines basically. And so Arthur manages to eventually save them both. And then he comes across a widow from another guy named Arthur from the coal mine. And he absolves her debt and actually gives her some money. It's an option to give her money.
Yeah, I gave her money and absolved the debt.
Me too. and then he ends up, after he's done with that, he ends up coming back to the camp and basically showing Strauss the door. He kicks him out. He's like, get the hell out of here. He doesn't kill Strauss, but he kicks him out. But you find out later that the Pinkertons actually our law enforcement captures Strauss, and Strauss dies in custody. But to Strauss's credit, he never said anything. But he does die in custody. But yeah, Strauss gets captured. He eventually dies, and the final conflict breaks out between Arthur and Dutch. Well, specifically Arthur and Micah, because at this time, Milton captures Abigail, and now at this time, okay, so Milton's captured Abigail. John's presumed dead again after the train robbery, and Dutch is basically like, oh well, too bad. So what? Doesn't matter. We have to survive, and Arthur's pissed off because wait a minute. Well, what about Jack? His father's allegedly dead. And his mother's been captured. What about Jack? And it's obvious that Dutch doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
And so Dutch and Sadie are like, fuck this, we're going to go save Abigail. And so they do. And then they end up with a final conflict with Milton. And that's when Milton reveals that Molly wasn't the rat. So thanks again, King Easy, for clearing that up. See, at the time, I thought there was 2 rats. But the second rat turns out to be...
Micah.
And I'm going to be honest. Micah was already dislikable enough. I don't think they needed to make... Do you think that they needed to make him a rat as well?
I mean, making him the rat was basically the icing on the shit cake it was. It just made Micah more hateable than he was originally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, he could have had some sort of, redemption. I thought he
No.
was going to be like the Trevor of this game, but I wasn't surprised that he was the rat after that because
Yeah.
of how much of a dick he was during the entire story.
Yeah, he's definitely no Trevor. I mean, Trevor's not exactly a good guy, but there's at least a likable personality that's kind of sort of charismatic. That in a weird way you do kind of like Trevor. There was like Micah had none of that. Micah had absolutely none of that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
See, Carlene Arthur never really trusted Micah. I agree. Never once did he ever trust Micah. And and that seemed very obvious that there was something going on there. They mentioned it a lot. So then, like, Danhauser, to his credit for one angle, didn't try to make it a surprise that there was a divide happening. Of course, you know that the divide's happening if you are familiar with Red Dead Redemption, that the gang falls apart. Let's see, wow, I mean, I'm surprised Micah got so many men. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Well, I mean, in fairness, I'm surprised that Bill Williamson got so many men to follow him. So how the fuck does that happen? I mean, at least Micah's kind of smart, right? He's kind of intelligent.
Yeah.
He's kind of conniving, manipulating. Bill Williamson is just a fucking idiot. And yet he got men to follow him and take over Fort Mercer. So it turns out Micah's the rat. And he's been working with the Pinkertons after... It was after Guarma that he got caught. Before Guarma, he was just a dickhole. Just an outlet, a survivor, dickhole, probably working his own angle. And after that, he got caught and he started cooperating with the Pinkertons. Now, I don't think it was necessary to do this. Erica, Williamson was always an idiot. Yep, he was. I think it was bad enough that Micah had his own ambitions. He was thinking about the money. And you could easily just make the whole point that he never cared about anybody in the camp. Never. Because he always talked about, oh, these are a lot of mouths to feed. It'd be a shame if something happened to some of these people. You know, we really gotta... Because he was always alluding to the fact that he was basically a psychopath and a sociopath or whatever path he is. A Micah path.
All the paths.
Yeah. So he didn't need to be a rat. I think Molly being the rat would have been good enough to justify how the Pinkertons knew exactly what was happening. That would have been fitting. And it would have been from a kind of an understandable point of view. How in a weird way Dutch had even turned Molly because of the way Dutch started acting and started neglecting her and basically broke her heart. But yeah. See, I think John and Arthur did not like each other in the beginning because John ran... Oh yeah, and that's another thing that we learned about. Okay, early on we learned that John runs away from the gang. Before the events of 1899. He leaves for like a year. He leaves Abigail and Jack behind. Because Jack... I mean, even though they're not married, Jack was already born. So somewhere between 1894 and 1899, John leaves for like a year. And then he returns like a prodigal son. And so that kind of left a wedge for a time between John and Arthur. But eventually, throughout Red Dead Redemption 2, they start to patch things up. Especially since they start seeing what kind of person Dutch is starting to devolve into.
Yeah.
Whether or not he was always that person to begin with, or he just simply started going insane, is something that we can discuss. What do you think about that, Kane?
I mean, to be honest, like, when talking about the rat, honestly, I thought it was going to be John, because in my personal opinion, it would have made sense, because John was already working with the government in the original Red Dead Redemption, but those were because, you know, they were pretty much holding his family hostage in a way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe if he helped the government, you know, take out the gang in the beginning, you know, they would have pretty much let him be and live, but because obviously he doesn't, that would have been what led to the events of the original game.
Yeah, for the record, I know that as several people mentioned, I think including Tank, they mentioned that even Dutch throws out John and Abigail's name throughout this, like later on in the story, like, do you think that John and Abigail are up to something, Arthur? I think they're up to something. So whenever they're discussing who might be the rat, because they suspect that there is a rat in the gang. But I am glad they didn't make John the rat, because people love John.
Yeah.
And I think doing that would have really would have done some damage to John's character. Because what happens in Red Dead Redemption, he has no choice. And Red Dead Redemption 2, you really can't justify it the same way because they're technically not captured yet. Well, I mean, even though Abigail does temporarily get captured. And then, of course, Milton gets killed by Abigail because Arthur manages to cut Abigail's ropes just a little bit before Milton puts a gun on him. And, of course, all this time, Arthur's dying. And what transpires in the climax between, let's say, Arthur, John, Micah, and Dutch is based on whether or not you're a white hat or a black hat or a buck or a wolf. And I'll let Kane explain that for those of you that don't understand.
I mean, before I'm going to talk about the ending, I got to talk about that beautiful scene where Arthur's just riding towards back to the camp, and it's just he's reflecting about his past actions. That scene was really powerful. It was. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Arthur's death was, inevitable, but seeing that scene, I literally cried on my first playthrough. I did. That's how emotional it was. Because I was honorable as well. That just made matters even worse. Buck and Wolf, basically, that shows on how honorable you were. And the best way to go, in my personal opinion, is being honorable. It pays off, and how Arthur's send off is. So. Let's say if I had the highest honorable, status, I would get the buck ending. Yeah. Where
and you start seeing visions of a buck or a wolf early on, like around the time he gets tuberculosis is when you start seeing it because he does this weird walk in Saint Denis and he starts to either see a buck or a wolf walk by. So you start getting that glimpse one way or the other, like around I guess like right at the end of chapter 5.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a buck, that means you've got high honor on a scale, and pretty much you're gonna get the best ending, which is Arthur just crawling slowly away from the aftermath of him, Micah, and Dutch.
Yeah.
And he peacefully passes away while looking at the sunrise.
Yeah.
And the wolf ending is, I think there's 2 versions of the wolf ending.
Well, there's 2 different choices. Okay. There's 2 choices that happen. Either A, you agree to help John or escape, or B, you go after the money that's hidden in the cave that Abigail finds the key to, and the location.
Yeah.
So that also determines what happens to Arthur, along with whether or not he's a buck or a wolf.
Yeah, I believe if you go after the money, it's Micah, nice, Arthur. He does.
Yeah. Either way, he gets knifed by Micah. If you decide to go after the money, whether you decide to white hat it or black hat it.
Yeah.
But regarding the ending, if you help John, I think there's 2 ways that plays out.
Yeah, if you do black hat ending and you help John, then you get shot by Micah. You do.
Is it Micah or Dutch?
No, it's Micah.
Okay.
I believe it is.
Yeah. So Micah kills Arthur if you're a black hat, even if you help John escape. So.
Yeah, it does.
But if he doesn't, then Dutch intervenes and Micah doesn't. Oh shit.
Well, Dutch does still see them afterwards, but he just walks away. Choosing to walk away.
Yeah, I know, but it feels like Dutch, in a way, did kind of intervene in that final scene. Because I feel like Dutch, I don't know if he kind of convinces Micah not to kill Arthur or what, but anyways, it's the better scene in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's better for Arthur as well.
Yeah.
If he dies peacefully instead of just being, murdered by the rats.
Yeah. And so let's see what happens. Oh yeah. Eventually, Charles and Sadie go back and we find out Charles and Sadie bury Arthur. So Miss Grimshaw also gets killed in the standoff too. She gets killed, like before the Pinkertons show up at the last camp. She gets killed. I think Micah kills her, right?
Yeah, I think it is. It's Micah or Dutch. I can't remember. It's one of them too.
Yeah. So yeah, Miss Grimshaw gets killed because she ends up standing with Arthur, and she gets killed. But we also find out that Pearson has left. The Reverend has left. He finally goes clean. He's no longer a drunkard or on drugs. He ends up leaving. Tilly also, she escapes with Jack with like a pretty impressive amount of money. So she takes care of Jack, and Abigail goes to get retrieve Jack from Tilly. So Tilly escapes, Mary Beth escapes as well. Pearson escapes. I don't know what happens to Karen. That's one thing I haven't found out yet. Because even in the end credits scene, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it doesn't show what happens to Karen. But I'm going to speculate that if someone has the answer to that, let me know in chat. But Karen was drinking a lot more near the end of the game. And she also alluded to the fact that she liked Micah, even though Micah didn't give two shits for her. So it makes me believe that things probably did not end so well for Karen.
I'm guessing she probably died after the aftermath of the camp.
Yeah, I don't think she dies there, but I think I don't think she turns her life around.
I think she probably succumbs to alcohol poisoning or something like that. That's one.
We could just assume that, because they don't even show what happens to her in the end credits, and they do show what happens to a few people. I went back on YouTube to watch it because I skipped it during my Let's Play by accident. It was an accident. You know, it happens. You know, shit happens sometimes. But anyway, so, yes, Arthur dies either way. And then you skip ahead to the epilogue. The epilogue is basically like its own game. It's like Red Dead Redemption 2.5 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a true prequel to Red Dead Redemption. Because it's several years later. What happens is John, Abigail, and Jack end up fleeing to the Yukon, and then they come back because they don't make it as, I guess, they were trying. I guess he was trying to make it rich in like mining for gold or something, or looking for gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't end up working out for John and Abigail in the Yukon. They come back, and John has shot somebody again.
Yeah.
And then I know Wyoming. I know it. After the fact, I regretted skipping the end credits. But the epilogue, you spent a long time in the epilogue with John. And it's cool because a lot of us speculated that we would be able to play as John at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2. No surprise. But you end up on a farm, and you end up learning how to become a rancher, basically. Just outside of Strawberry. So, yeah. And like some people were joking Thursday that basically what Red Dead Redemption, the epilogue was about, is basically ways to piss off Abigail. Because so many times she got pissed off at John throughout the epilogue. It was funny as hell.
Yeah.
But eventually, like she and Jack even leave John because he ends up helping the ranch. He ends up protecting the ranch that he's what are they called, the Gacy's, or the what are they?
I think it's I don't know. I can't remember their name.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
But yeah, the ranch he was working on, you know, they get attacked by a rival farm, and so John decides to pull out his weapons, and he goes and helps, you know, basically take out that other farm. And he's his alias is Jim Milton, you know, which is, you know, what was it, Agent Milton's name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's using his he ends up calling Abigail Agatha, and he ends up calling Jack Lancelot. So stupid. Yeah, you're right, Eric. It started the farm that he was part of up in Pronghorn, just in Big Valley, I think, just outside of Strawberry. I forgot the name of the family, but he ends up befriending the family and all the ranchers working there, and they know that he's not a ranch hand. They know that he has kind of a shady background, but he's so likable, and he ends up working really hard. He ends up actually getting better at, and you learn a lot about building fences, milking cows, even like, I guess, helping give birth to a horse, I think, and also trying to calm down a bull.
Yeah.
So you start really getting a handle for John slowly becoming a rancher. Even though at first he doesn't want to be a rancher. He doesn't like the idea. It's just something that Abigail really wants, but ultimately Abigail leaves him for a while. Where she goes, we have no idea where she goes. She just goes somewhere with Jack.
She runs away.
But I didn't like it. You know, I didn't like the fact that she left. I mean, I get that she'd be pissed off at him, but you think she would at least, you know, understand why John ended up having to do what he did, because these guys took him. You know, they took them in, right? You know, this ranch. You know, they took him in, and he was just trying to help. Yeah. What's that clicking? Was that you?
Fireworks. I closed the window.
Okay, that's weird.
Sorry, Finn.
That's okay. It's okay. But anyway, so at this moment, okay, before leading up to this moment, Abigail and Jack, I guess they're reading the newspaper from Blackwater, and they find out about this property for sale called, what's it called again? I forgot.
Beecher's Hope.
Oh, yeah, that's the name of the family. Beecher's Hope, yes. And so Abigail wants them to buy it. And after they leave, John decides, okay, fine, I'll buy it. And he goes to the ranch owner, and he happens to have a cousin that runs a bank in Blackwater, and he puts in a good word for him, and he gets a line of credit, and he's able to... Did I kill this one already? No, that one's already dead. I skinned that one. Okay. I'm finding a ton of these Gila monsters. I found none yesterday, so I'm happy about that. At the very least, the one thing I accomplished in this stream was getting plenty of Gila monster skins to take to the trapper so I can get some sweet stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, John ends up getting a line of credit, a loan, to buy the property in Beecher's Hope, and it's kind of sort of run down. It's not what we... Yeah. It's not what we know from Red Dead Redemption. So you find this little shack. You find these squatters. What'd you end up doing with the squatters?
Oh, I just told them to go away. They tried to fight me, so I just shot them all in the head.
Yeah, me too. I didn't give them any money, because one of the things that happens is, yeah, Arthur gives John the satchel. You get the satchel, but like all of Arthur's money, his weapons, and his horses, you don't get.
Yeah.
So it was the one advantage I had was I had so much money before Arthur died. Like I had like $5,500, and I had tons, because I liked looting, and I had tons of like rings and belt buckles and pocket watches. So the first chance I had to like fence all that with John, I ended up having like $500 or $700 from that. So I was able to quickly give John some money, thanks to Arthur. Including the ring that Mary gave him back. Of course, you can't sell the ring, and I was being an asshole about that. And like, well, I'm going to sell the ring. I'm going to sell the ring. And like, Erica's like, don't sell the ring. You couldn't sell the ring anyways, by the way. But you're right, Eric. Yeah,
being honest with the ring, I thought that was actually going to go to Bo and the other
Penelope.
girl's name. But
yeah.
Penelope.
But see, John didn't know them, though. So John didn't know shit about either one of them, because that was during Arthur's encounter.
But I mean, like, you know, some of the stranger missions that you don't do as Arthur.
Oh yeah, you end up doing as one mission. Yeah, you end up doing as John. The same thing goes for Jack if you don't do them, or if you don't finish them as John, you can finish them as Jack in Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, I am a wise ass. I know.
I thought they would have done it like that. You know, they would have just done something similar to that.
Yeah. So it's while John's in Blackwater after he gets the loan that he runs into.
Good old uncle.
Yep, good old uncle.
Good old.
And, of course, as we know, Uncle ends up being part of Beecher's Hope. And even though Uncle has his moments, he does have his moments. And so he finds out about Charles, who's down in Saint Denis fighting. And so I guess, they take the train, I think, right?
Yeah, I think they take the train there.
Yeah, John and Uncle take the train to Saint Denis to go get Charles. And you have the option to bet money on Charles, and it gives you a little bit of extra money by betting on Charles. He wins a fight, but then the new Italian crime boss, which was one of Bronte's lieutenants, his men try to kill you, but then you easily kill them and you easily escape Saint Denis. And then Charles and Uncle head back to Beecher's Hope, and then you start building up Beecher's Hope, which is really cool.
Yeah, seeing that scene, like it's an amazing scene, it is, because my nostalgia literally kicked in when I was watching that scene.
Yeah, it was a cool scene, and there were some scenes whenever like it has you hammering a nail into wood, and you're clearly not hammering it into anything else. I mean, I'm not a carpentry expert by any means, but my dad was, and I have hammered a few nails into wood in my life. And I know enough how it works, okay? You just don't hammer a nail into one piece of wood. It doesn't work that way. So there were moments where I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, sometimes they got it right. Sometimes they didn't get it right. But, yeah, so you get to build... Basically, you order Beecher's Hope. Because it's, like, pre-cut, the wood, and the schematics are... Like, you order it from somewhere, and it's shipped to you. And I guess this is how they were doing it back then. Or you had the ability to do it this way. And then, of course, you run across this gang in Tall Trees called the Skinners. And they're a bunch of psychos, too.
Yeah.
I think they would give the Murphys a run for their money. But they scalp people. They burn people alive. They do some horrible stuff. They're basically overrunning Tall Trees in the Great Plains. Because you see a lot of their victims, like you'll see wagons go by, and you'll see people, like, loaded down with arrows.
Yeah. And
so you end up having to deal with the Skinners a few times. They even kidnap Uncle after, John, Charles, and Uncle are celebrating the house being built after them finishing the house. They get a little drunk. They carry on. Not to the degree that Arthur and Lenny did in Valentine, but there's another drunk scene that happens with Charles and John and Uncle. Uncle gets kidnapped, and you have to go rescue Uncle. And I guess his back got slightly burnt or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, you rescue Uncle. And then, I guess, let's see. Oh yeah, that's when you run into Sadie again, if you want. You can run into her sooner, earlier, or later. But it turns out Sadie's been bounty hunting. She's become a bounty hunter. And so, in order to make extra money, in order to pay off the loan for Beecher's Hope and for the house, John agrees to help Sadie with some bounties. And you're right, Wyman. The Skinners are creepy as hell. Just like the Murphys. And so, you end up bonding with... John ends up bonding with Sadie and making some money. And somewhere along the way, the barn gets built as well while John's out helping Sadie. And then Abigail and Jack return. Yay! They just return. They come back. Yay. And they have a new friend, Rufus, which we saw at the beginning of the stream. We saw all Rufus. And that was cool because, you know, I liked Rufus from Red Dead Redemption. He was a good boy. And so Jack and Abigail return. And, you know, it seems like things are going better. But then, well, they find out about Micah, who's still out there.
And I'm not surprised that they go after him. Because if someone's gonna, you know, do some crazy shit to your friend, then, you know, obviously you're gonna go stand your ground.
This NPC goes throughout the map looking for Gavin. You find him all over the fucking place. Gavin! Gavin! Where are you,
Wait,
Gavin?
you at Rhodes?
No, I'm out in New Austin.
Oh, I thought you were at Rhodes.
No, I'm out in the desert in New Austin. No, you run into him at Blackwater as well, and you run into him... I think you run into him just about anywhere. This guy just wandering around looking for Gavin.
Yeah, I found him at Rhodes. It's like, Gavin, where are you?
Good job, Galaxy Traveler. I haven't named him. This will be Galaxy Traveler once I officially name you. I killed another... Oh, this was a desert... Oh, I've been killing desert iguanas as well as Gila monsters. Okay. Gavin! Gavin! All right, so anyways... So Sadie finds out exactly where Micah's staying. And, you know, they all swore that if they ever found Micah, that Sadie, Charles, and John would go get him. Yeah. They were all convinced, Micah is going to pay for what he did. For being a rat, for helping break the gang apart.
For getting our friend of the members killed.
Yeah. Well, technically Arthur was dying anyways. Not necessarily because of Micah, but
I mean, Micah basically made it a little bit close to being the rat.
Exactly. He didn't exactly make things better for Arthur's predicament. But yeah, they were ready and willing to, at a drop of the hat, go off and hunt down Micah. And so they find out he's on top of Mount Hagen, which is named after the voice actor for, you know, Landon Ricketts. Rockstar did that. There's like a region named after Hagen, and then there's also the mountain named after Hagen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we talked about that earlier. How if you have bad honor, like you get shot by Micah, and if you decide to go after the money in the cave, instead of helping John escape, Micah stabs you. So, yeah, John and Charles and Sadie, they gallop on up to Mount Hagen for the final confrontation against Micah. And it was epic. It was really freaking epic. Of course, it was kind of contrived, though, because at first Charles gets hurt. He gets shot by a sniper. And that sniper was so difficult to kill. Because I had my bolt-action rifle, right? And I hit him several times from a distance. And bear in mind, it's no different than a sniper rifle when it comes to the range or damage.
Yeah.
And it didn't kill him. And several times, I was getting very salty near the end of the stream. And I was also fatigued because the final episode went on for like 8 hours. Because the epilogue is actually very, very long. So I get killed a few times, and finally I get close enough to where I'm able to kill that sniper. But of course the sniper's injured Charles, so Charles takes a while for Charles to catch up. Sadie gets injured. She gets a knife ran through her by another member of Micah's gang. Yeah, well, I mean, it was the sniper. That sniper scene was such a pain in the ass. Because I couldn't even go back and get my sniper rifle to deal with him. Because I don't know where the fuck the horse went. But, yeah, I mean, once I got past that, then it got a little bit better. I think I died one time after that, but that was okay. But it was just so cool to have John's music, like, kicking back up again. Like, it was like, what I call John's, I don't know what the official title is of I call it John's theme from Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
And you hear it again, early on you hear it again whenever he goes to the farm, the episode, what, Jim Milton rides again?
Yeah.
You hear it there. And so it's definitely a tie-in to Red Dead Redemption, because you're like, oh, that music's back. You know, and the sound effect for John's dead eye is back. And, of course, the same voice actor is back. But then the music really kicks up in the final battle, going up the mountain. You know, taking out Micah's men left and right. See, no, yeah, they both use Red Dead Redemption's normal theme, but some remixes I really liked. Yeah, it was really epic. It was an epic final scene, fighting up the mountain, killing off Micah's... Yeah, it was. Killing off Micah's men. And just like someone joked about in chat earlier, like, why would anyone join Micah? Especially all the way up to, like, you know, Mount Hagen of all places, right? It's a beautiful view up there, but I can't imagine it's very comfortable being up there in the damn snow and cold as hell. Yeah. But like I mentioned earlier, I mean, to me, I can justify people joining Micah as opposed to joining Bill Williamson, because at least Micah's, you know, smart and clever and manipulative and cunning, whereas Bill Williamson is just an idiot. So if Bill Williamson can get a gang together, and I can run over a rabbit with my horse. Oh, no. The rabbit survived. Rabbit got away. Good. I'm happy. I didn't really want to kill the rabbit anyways. I have enough junk. All right, so let me wrap. You know what? I'm going to cinematic the rest of this because we're getting close to the end. And by the way, I appreciate all of you being here today, including Kane. Enjoying this spoiler stream that we're having tonight.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are here that haven't finished the game yet, well, that's on you. Clearly it says in the title, spoilers. Clearly on the thumbnail it says spoilers, so...
Yeah.
You all are here...
The game, you're missing out, my friend. You are missing out.
You are here by your own volition, so you only have yourself to blame. So anyways, when we get to the top of the mountain, just like Wildman mentions, when we get up to the top of the mountain, the final confrontation between John, Sadie, and Micah... And basically, you can't kill Micah yourself because, like, Micah's like really good with guns, so you have to basically duck and cover. And then Sadie shows up to puts a gun on him, and then plot twist, coming out of the same building that Micah was in, is another character.
Good old Dutch.
Good old Dutch, but this time Dutch is he has a beard now.
I mean, he's starting to look like how he did in the original game.
Not entirely,
Like,
because Dutch has more gray hairs in 1911
know.
than he does in 1907, which is kind of weird.
But like his beard's starting to look like how it was in the original game, from what I remember. I don't know whether he had a beard or not in the original. Did he have a beard in the original game?
Yeah. And so it comes down to like another Mexican standoff on top of Mount Hagen between Micah, Sadie, Dutch, and John. And John basically convinces Dutch to turn on Micah. And I think Dutch was actually going up there to kill Micah anyways. Because I think that Dutch just happened to be up there. I don't think it was necessary to have Dutch there. It was kind of cool. But at the same time, I don't think it was, because technically I think the first time that Dutch and John encountered each other after the events of what transpired in 1899 was supposed to be 1911 in Blackwater. But anyways, Micah gets gunned down.
That scene though,
huh?
Like, you know, when we see, it's nice to see Dutch up there because it sort of makes it sort of
you're kind of cutting in and out, Kane.
Sorry,
it's okay. But
it sort of humanizes.
Yeah, it shows that there's still something left in Dutch. You know, he's not entirely a bad guy. That there's still part of him that realizes that he was, you know, screwed over by Micah. And, you know, John, I guess John does what Arthur couldn't do and finally convince Dutch that Micah was indeed a rat and was the one that was destroying the gang from within. Even though I, once again, don't feel like it was necessary to make Micah a rat. I think Micah's character alone was enough to destroy the gang from his own devices, his own desire to go back to Blackwater and get all the money, which, by the way, they did. And you end up getting that money after you and Dutch and Sadie just mow down Micah with bullets, which is very satisfying, by the way. Seeing, like, John and Dutch stand together one last time, you know, gunning down Micah Bell, and he got exactly what he deserved. Maybe a slower death would have been nice, but at least he's dead.
Yeah.
And so the epilogue ends with John getting all the money and the gold from the cabin or the shack on top of Mount Hagen that Micah was hoarding. And oh yeah, there's another cool scene that happens before that in the epilogue where John takes Abigail to town. They get a photo together. Huh?
They get a picture together. Oh,
yep. They get a photo together. They go watch a Nickelodeon, like a really short like film, because back then they didn't have this was early on in movies, right? Like they were very short animations or like silent films. And then after that he gets her on a boat, and then he gives her Mary's ring and proposes to her, because at the time they're still not technically married. But it does kind of break the canon. It's one of many examples of the canon being rewritten or retconned by Dan Houser, because Abigail mentions how the marriage proposal was at gunpoint. Now maybe she didn't mean it literally, so I guess you could justify that. That maybe to her, from her opinion, it felt like a gunpoint marriage proposal, but I was envisioning something a little different. It was still romantic. It still made my eyes leak a little tear or two dropped. I got a little watery from the scene. But at the same time, I don't know. It was a good scene, but I was envisioning something transpiring where I don't know how it would have worked, where he was pointing a gun at her proposing marriage. But I felt like this was probably the more romantic route, but maybe it's just a running joke they have. But anyways, Tank, I would have liked to see the gunpoint marriage proposal as well, but I'm just saying maybe from like Abigail's point of view, it felt like a gunpoint. Because it was shocking, you know, she didn't see it coming. Just like you wouldn't expect to, you know, I don't know. It was still romantic. Okay, but anyways, going back to the end of the epilogue, you get the end credits scene, which I skipped over by accident. Okay, no, not by accident, but I should have said through the end credits because I knew better. I don't know why I did. So Abigail and John get married at Beecher's Hope, and it's a random priest that marries them. It would have been cool if they had brought back Father Reverend Swanson to do it. If he would have been there to do it, I mean, even just to show up and marry him off, that would have been kind of cool. But you had Sadie survives her injury, even though she got knifed pretty bad. Oh, and you end up getting like $20,000 by beating the game. by all that
Yeah.
money. So all these money glitches, they really don't make much sense. They really don't.
Yeah.
All right, so Kane, I want you to talk about the end credit scene real quick. I will be right back. Just things you liked about the end credit scene. You watched it, right? Kane,
Huh?
are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just trying to wait out, like,
Okay.
call. My side of the call's going beep, boop, beep.
Okay, I'll be right back. You can start talking about the end credit scene, and I will return shortly.
Alright, so, folks, if you can hear me and if I'm not sounding like a robot that's going beep, boop, beep, 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 boop, basically, the end credits is pretty amazing because during the credits, not only are we seeing the people that worked on this fine game, we're also seeing, sort of a where are they now sort of scene with all the characters. Like, we see Mary Beth working on her book, we see Edgar Ross and his partner. They're like looking around some of the areas for clues about where John Marston's whereabouts are. There's also, I don't know whether we see what happens to the Trentley dude. I can't remember his name, but I don't know whether he's in the scene. But we also see what happens to Pearson, Rain Falls, Tilly. She's living in Saint Denis with some dude. But yeah, the end credits is pretty good, especially with the music choice they had. And also, there's a nice little shot in the credits as well, where I think it is Mary Linden. She goes to visit Arthur's grave and pays her respects. And if you didn't actually know, there's actually an Easter egg with Arthur's grave where you can actually just go over there and, in a way, sort of pay your respect, even though you can't properly, bend the knee for him.
True. UG Outlaw, what's up? How's it going? So, yeah. I did go back and I watched the end credit scene, even though I accidentally skipped over it. I keep saying accidental, it wasn't an accident, but it's a regrettable decision I made that I wish I could have had a do-over for, but that's life.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you also get to see Arthur's grave, so that's also an Easter egg in the game.
Yeah, with Mary Linton mourning over it.
Yeah, you can actually find that. I don't know whereabouts it is, but I know you can actually find that in free mode.
I think someone told me that you could actually go to Lenny and Hoseia's grave, I think. So you probably could go to everybody's grave, and like you could go probably to Sean's grave, maybe. I don't know if you could go to Molly's grave. I don't think they bothered burying her.
I think they actually burned her body up.
I don't know what they did to Molly. Poor Molly. But
yeah.
So yeah, where were we? Okay, so yeah, John and Abigail get married. Sadie heals from her knife injury. She wanders off, I guess, continuing to be a bounty hunter, or she heads down to South America. Charles eventually leaves, possibly going north to Canada, because he does mention now he wants to go to Canada and find a wife and start a family. And I think that's where the Native American tribe, Rainfall's tribe, I think that's where he ended up helping them to get to.
Rainfalls actually says that when you find him. Like, he mentions that his tribe moves up north, so I presume probably Canada, that's where they went.
Yeah, that's cool. And so Micah's dead, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Mary Beth is a writer. I think she lives in Saint Denis. Tilly also lives in Saint Denis. She's married. Either she's wealthy now because of the money she got from Arthur, or else she married a wealthy guy and they have a kid, a baby, because they have a stroller. And Pearson, I think Pearson is at the grocery store in Rhodes, I think.
Yeah, you can actually go there and speak to him, I believe.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff I have to go do. There's so much in the game you can still do. I'm gonna sell some skins. Sell all these skins. There we go. I don't really need to sell them, but I'm selling. Hopefully I can use them to make some stuff eventually. I'm not gonna do it today, but just a few dollars here or there.
Yeah.
Sell these, but so like I said earlier, if somebody knows what happens to Karen, because that's the one answer I don't have, is like what happens to Karen. Everyone else I know what their fates are. But
yeah, I'm sure there's some YouTube video out there that'll explain her fate.
Tank Engine Jr. Nobody wants to go to Micah's grave. Well, oh yeah, that does remind me. Thanks, Tank. That let's see, Ross and Foreman. I think wasn't that Ross's assistant?
I think so. I can't remember. Yeah,
they end up making it up to Mount Hagen. They find a dead Micah Bell, and then they go on their own little journey, the Valentine and other places, and then they ultimately end up outside of Beecher's Hope, and they're watching John and Jack. And I think it's still 1907, so it's not till 4 years later that that Ross decides to carry out his plan to kidnap Abigail, Jack, and convince John to help him bring in Bill Williamson, Javier, and Dutch in order to gain his freedom. And if I was John at the time, I would have asked for like a pardon or something. Just me.
Yeah.
I've been like, okay, I'll do it, but I want a full pardon. I want immunity deals. I want the whole 9 yards. Some fucking actual piece of paper guarantees that nothing else is going to happen to me or my family after I do this for you, Mr. Ross.
Yeah.
Let's see, Carlene, can I mention that Mary visiting Arthur's grave is a nice scene, but it ticks me off a bit. Why does it piss you? Why does it tick you off? I mean, I can understand because you kind of gave him a Dear John letter and gave him back the ring. But she still loved him. See, the problem is she still loved Arthur, but it just, to her, it felt like that she and Arthur just couldn't be together, you know? I think that's the issue, is that she wanted to be with Arthur,
Yeah.
but Arthur wanted to be with her, but Arthur just had this damn code, right? He had this loyalty to the gang, and it just proved to be their undoing. So, it's hard, though. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel for Mary, but at the same time, yeah, it does. Especially after the stuff you do for Mary, because you do quite a few things for Mary, even though it's optional. You go rescue her son, I mean her brother, from the cult, even though the cult wasn't really that dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just a bunch of guys hanging out on a mountain, not really doing anything. But then you help her regarding her father. Then you take her to the movies. And that's pretty much it. And all you get out of it is your ring back and a fucking Dear John letter. So,
Yeah. Shame.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the point, Carlene, was the romance was dead, and it was just them both reflecting on what they could have had, and what was never really meant to be. Even though I would have, like, really liked for them to have had something, because I think part of us kind of wanted Arthur to get that happy ending that John didn't really get. And that's another thing about the ending of this game that I want to talk about as we start to wind down this spoilers discuss video, since we're back at Beecher's Hope. Some things I don't really agree with, like some decisions made regarding some of the storylines don't really add up, because I think there was also a bank robbery, and I think Prestige mentioned it in the comment section in one of the videos in 1906. That was supposed to be the original breaking point for the Vanderlyn gang, but obviously it gets retconned. Because in 1906, I think John, Abigail, and Jack are still up in the Yukon trying to strike it rich. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And in 1907, they end up coming back to America. Let's see, UG Outlaw, wasn't it Kieran the one who came back to the... Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, that was Kieran that ended up getting his head chopped off by the Driscolls. Oh, yeah, no, Colm Driscoll got his in the end, too. He got hanged in St. Denis. That was a nice scene. He was so cocky and confident that his gang would rescue him, but once he realized that it wasn't going to happen, and you saw how his emotions changed, and he realized he was
like, you saw the fear in his eyes.
Yeah,
like, just beautiful seeing that.
It was a good scene. It was very satisfying, and he realized that he was about to die. He actually was going to die, and that was a good scene.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you know how old? I think Arthur was 12 years old. No, I think he was 12, Carlene, whenever he joined Dutch's gang. And at the time, it really wasn't a gang. It was just Dutch and Hosea, and they rescued Arthur, and then they rescued John. And then eventually more people started joining the gang, like Javier and Bill and all the different girls.
Yeah.
And that was something Prestige brought up as well, if I remember correctly, in the comment section. He was commenting on how they never really mentioned that the girls were working girls. I think they do. I think they did. At least I think. I mean, obviously with Abigail, because she's referred to as a whore several times. So it's no illusion, but I think it's something you don't exactly go around saying, "Hey, I used to be a prostitute." It's not exactly something that Abigail or maybe the other girls would be bragging about, right? Not really. Yeah. So it's understandable that they wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's alluded to that, at the very least, I think Abigail and Karen and probably Miss Grimshaw were prostitutes.
Slightly.
But I think Tilly and Mary Beth may have had different backgrounds. I don't know entirely. I know that Tilly was, escapes from that one gang that comes back out and captures her, who basically treated her like property. So maybe she was also kind of a prostitute.
Yeah.
But Mary Beth, I don't really know if it's the same for Mary Beth, to be honest. But you could imply that maybe to some degree they all till the time of them joining the Vanderlyn gang rescued by Dutch and them. Maybe all of them had no choice but to be working girls, and that's I guess that was weird.
What happened?
John's having weird flash things happen to him. I guess he needs to go eat.
Oh.
So we'll take him inside. But yeah, I mean that I don't really have much of an issue with. His stamina just went to hell.
Damn.
I don't know what the fuck happened there. What's up with you, John? But yeah, I mean that I can kind of excuse in the 1906 thing. But the other thing is that I don't understand. This is part of the issue I have at the end of the game. I like playing as John, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it was really a good idea after the epilogue was over. I think after the epilogue, they should have made the protagonist, maybe a third protagonist, either Sadie or Charles. Because
or even Uncle. Imagine playing as Uncle.
No, not Uncle. That would have been that was silly. Uncle, whatever. Okay, here's the reason why. Because
all right,
if you go by the original timeline, as far as I know, John never really ventured down to Armadillo until 1911. Now, there is a bounty hunter mission where John and Sadie go down to Pike's Basin. So that's kind of excusable.
Yeah.
But for the most part, John, as far as I remember, I could be wrong about this. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, chap. But from what I know from the timeline, it wasn't until 1911 that he really ventured over into New Austin, because he had to go hunt down Bill Williamson and then later on Javier. And so that's the first time he encounters the McFarlane Ranch and Armadillo. And it feels weird. Because whereas Arthur, you can customize him. You can, give him whatever different types of outfits you want. And different hairstyles and facial hair. With John here, I just can't bring myself to do it. Either I give him the rancher outfit that he has, or else this outfit.
Full outfit, his Red Dead Redemption outfit. When I saw that scene where he put it on for the first time, the nostalgia.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I didn't understand. Is I was expecting some sort of story about how he got the hat. Because before that, he wears this other hat that I never liked. It looks kind of stupid. But then he pulls a chest out from underneath his bed at the cabin at the ranch he's working at after Abigail and John leave, and he goes off to be a bounty hunter or goes down to Blackwater, whatever you decide to do first. And all of a sudden, he has the outfit and he has the hat. There's no real explanation how he gets the damn hat. And I thought that we'd at least get something. Because it's a cool hat, it's iconic.
It makes sense before he gets that hat, he would just wear Arthur's hat to sort of respect his friend.
Yeah, and he actually does wear Arthur's hat in the final battle against Micah. He actually puts the hat back on going up to Mount Hagen. So you do still have Arthur's hat, but throughout the events of Red Dead Redemption, this is basically... I know there are various outfits you can get in Red Dead Redemption, the duster, the poncho, some of the other outfits too, but his iconic look is this, for the most part.
Yeah.
So I would have liked some sort of reasoning behind the hat. I know the rancher outfit is a gift from Abigail. She got it from him. She ordered it for him as a gift while they were at the ranch outside of Strawberry. But the hat, one day he has the hat. I don't know. It would have just been kind of cool if there would have been a scene where he had to go to the store And maybe that hat was just sitting there for sale and he just buys it. He's like, I like that hat. I'm going to buy it. You know, something like that. I'm not asking for something crazy, but anyway, so that I kind of have an issue with. And it feels wrong to take John, like even though I was down in Armadillo, you know, throughout most of the stream in New Austin, it feels wrong for him to be down there. It feels wrong for him to be near McFarland Ranch before 1911. There's just something that doesn't feel
1911,
right.
he meets Bonnie and all that.
Yeah.
It doesn't to be down there. He'd just be some random guy.
Exactly. It doesn't feel right to me. Like I've avoided going through McFarland. I mean, I've been there at a distance looking at it, but I've never actually trotted through McFarland Ranch, even though McFarland Ranch is not complete yet because the barn doesn't exist and some other things. But Bonnie's obviously there. Her dad's there. You don't see them, but you know they're there if you go by the timeline.
And plus, there's even an Easter egg involving Bonnie that I
there's a letter.
In the spoiler chat. Yeah.
So there's just part of me that I guess wants to try and preserve the timeline that's already in my head. And so I don't feel comfortable with taking John to McFarland Ranch. And that's one reason why I really wish that for the post game, you started as you would play the rest of the game as Charles or Sadie. Maybe Sadie. That would be kind of cool because I know you didn't really like Sadie, but I felt like for the most part she became a very fleshed out character by the end.
I mean, she was a good character. Just I found her voice a little bit annoying. Like it sounded way too hard. Like her voice actress sounded like she was trying way too hard to sound like a cowgirl.
Well, I mean, I think they were just trying to go for a unique like sound, you know. But I mean, the accent's not. Once it does grow on you after a while. But it would have been. I mean, if I had to pick between Charles and Sadie, I would pick Sadie because so many people have wanted a female protagonist in a Rockstar game, and it would have been perfect, you know. Because Sadie could explore down there. Sadie could go down to New Austin. Sadie could roam around McFarland Ranch. She could do that, and you would feel okay with it because it's
even
Sadie.
Charles as well.
Yeah, and our Charles. You could do it with either one of them. And either one of them would have been just fine because they're both badasses. You could go down there and roam around and do stuff. And I will say this, even though I feel uncomfortable doing all this with John going forward, I like the fact that we get to play with John once again because I do like his character. I do like the voice actor. I like John Marston. And I think most people love John Marston. But there's just this weird conflict I have. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's very strange. But in the end, it's just a video game. So I guess anything that happens post-epilogue is not really considered to be canon. So I guess you could look at it that way. Even though Rockstar, to their credit, has given a lot to this game. Because even post-epilogue, there's so much you can still do. Because, like you guys mentioned before, there's dialogue that John has with, like, Abigail and Uncle and Jack. And you can even do chores around Beecher's Hope. And you can roam around doing bounties. You can go hunting, still fishing. And there's... even with the Del Lobo gang, you can go encounter the Del Lobo gang. And you can see the cholera epidemic in Armadillo. And talk to people in Armadillo. And... oh, we didn't even go to Tumbleweed, guys. We didn't even go to Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed still has people there.
Whoa. That's mad.
Yeah, so Tumbleweed is in 1907 is not a ghost town yet. But in 4 years' time, it will be a ghost town. And somehow in 4 years' time, Thieves Landing over here will magically have a brothel and a saloon and the gun store and the other buildings that for some reason it should have already, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because this is only 1907. I mean, it's only a 4-year gap between this point and the beginning of Red Dead Redemption 2, and in my opinion, all that should be here already. But they're shooting at me. You assholes! I'm just hanging out over here, minding my own business. But yeah, I mean, it's just small things that kind of annoy me. And there's also that major train line that runs to Manzanita Post, and it's not there for some reason. And you think it would already be there.
Yeah.
And that major bridge between like West Elizabeth and New Austin, it's still not there yet. I don't even think it's even under construction yet.
Yeah.
And there's parts of Blackwater I feel like should already be finished by 1907. Like it should already be paved, like the buildings, the bank, the police building. That should already be built. But, I mean, these are just small issues I have, observations, about what I think that the world should look like already by 1907. You know, when you compare the fact that there's only a 4-year gap between this point and then that point. But it doesn't matter. It's small potatoes. Final thoughts, Kane, and everybody in chat.
For me personally, I gotta say this: Red Dead Redemption 2 completely blew all my expectations away. I thought it was basically gonna be the original game with a few new things and basically better graphics. Arthur Morgan, okay, this is one thing I wanted to say. Arthur Morgan's probably the best Rockstar protagonist in a long time. Like, we've had Nico Bellic, who was originally my favorite Rockstar protagonist. Arthur Morgan is probably my new favorite character of all time in any video game. That's how good Arthur is. That's how much of a good character he is. That's how much I like his character, his development, and all that. I like it how, you know, if you choose him to be a good character, he has a better send-off, you know? I like his choice building and all that. It reminds me of Lee from The Walking Dead. You know, he starts as a bad man and slowly evolves into a good person. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I'm actually surprised how much I grew to like Arthur. And it's hard because a lot of people were asking me, like, who do you like more now, John or Arthur? It's hard for me because I spent so much time with John, you know, early on, you know, like years ago when the game first came out. And I've played through Red Dead Redemption so many times. And, of course, a few weeks ago leading up to the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
And I still consider John Marston to be, like, one of the best protagonists that Rockstar's created. But Arthur Morgan, if he's not better than John, he's a close second. He's up there. He's up there with John. And I'm surprised by that, by how they were able to do that with Arthur. And Arthur, a lot of people at first, I think a lot of people loved John so much that they didn't want to like Arthur. They couldn't envision or fathom that Dan Houser and his writing staff could make another character as enduring and lovable and conflicted and flawed and real as Arthur Morgan is. And like you're talking about, I do enjoy the journey you go on with Arthur Morgan. Even if you intend to play the game as a white hat, the way the game is, you basically have to play as a black hat early on, to some degree.
Yeah.
Blackish gray.
Yeah.
And it works for Arthur because of his background, but eventually you start to see how Arthur does start to question the gang, starts to question Dutch and like the real reasons why they're doing what they're doing, and how, you know, how they're being hunted, and how the gang has always been his life. And it's not just about Dutch to Arthur, it's about everybody in the gang that he cares about. Yeah. Not just Dutch, but even John is you could say his brother, right?
Yeah, in a way they kind of are brothers.
They are brothers. And, you know, even though there was obviously some, like, at the beginning you do see a conflict between them because of the fact that it turns out John did run away for a year for whatever rhyme or reason, probably because of fatherhood scaring him off. You know, and he's probably very young, a lot younger whenever Abigail got pregnant and, you know, Jack came along. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see that relationship managed. Whatever issues they have between each other, they managed to patch it up. And the fact that he does generally, you walk around the camp, he does, and if you aren't an antagonist, and if you try to greet everybody, you do see how generally Arthur does seem to care for everybody's well-being. And how they rely on Arthur whenever he goes out camp, you know, hunting for him. I don't know why the other assholes can't fucking go hunting, though. I mean, come on. I mean, almost everybody at the camp knows how to use a fucking gun.
Yeah. Why can't they go, you know, use that gun on some animal that they can make for a meal?
And it's weird, though, because a lot of times Charles is at the camp, too, and Charles is the one who teaches Arthur how to properly use a bow and arrow. And you think that even if you decide to go away for a while as Arthur and just venture off doing side quests and just exploring, you would come back and then Pearson would be like, well, Charles took care of it, you know. You know, it's okay. Charles went to go get us something to eat because they do imply that Charles is actually one of the members of the camp actually doing something.
Yeah.
You know, while there's some people not really doing anything, like Uncle, except for sleeping and drinking. But you do grow a relationship with a lot of these characters, including characters you already knew about from Red Dead Redemption. I mean, even early on, I don't like Bill, but Bill gets kind of humanized a little bit because he is loyal. But it was amazing how much I grew to like Javier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Rockstar's always been good at character creation. Okay. And that's, you know, tip of the hat to Dan Houser and his writing team. And of course everybody at Rockstar, the voice actors and actresses, the artists, the developers, the Q&A testers, everybody at Rockstar, you know, throughout the world that works for Rockstar, whether it's Rockstar San Diego or Rockstar North or one of the smaller ones. You know, they did
a fantastic job.
I agree. They did. And this game is not a perfect game. I don't agree with the scores that most of the the gaming sites gave this game. A lot of them gave it a perfect score. I disagree with that.
I think it should be a 9.5 to be honest.
Yeah.
Like because nothing is truly perfect.
Yeah.
It's a good game, but it doesn't deserve the 10. It at least deserves a 9.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's not a perfect game, but it's damn close. And it definitely has some issues, some bugs that hopefully Rockstar are currently working on fixing, hopefully, in a patch.
Hopefully.
But anyways, I think that's pretty much it. If there's anything else, chat, you want to bring up spoiler-wise, now's your opportunity. But I enjoyed my time with Arthur, and I did say that I was going to first play him as a white hat, and then maybe later on as a black hat. But just like Kane was saying, once you play him as a white hat, it's really hard to, even though you have the option. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to justify it now, in hindsight.
Yeah.
Going back and because you still get to play as a badass.
It's nice to play as.
Yeah. I think you're cutting out again, Kane. But yeah, when it comes to Arthur Morgan, I do like the fact that he's complicated enough where you could easily justify him being a white hat or black hat, a wolf or a buck. Even with the ending, you get as black as a hat too. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if there's a canon ending, like we talked about a moment ago, if there's a canon ending for Arthur, it's him finding redemption, because the name of the game is Red Dead Redemption 2. The theme is redemption. You know, John gets his redemption, and so in this game, Arthur gets his redemption. You know, he manages to save most of the members of the Vanderlyn gang, including John, Abigail, and Jack. And, you know, he basically gives his life to save people. Let's see. Wildman, what would you do differently now that you're playing through the first time, knowing what you know about the game? Well, what I would do differently is the fact that I know that you lose all the money that Arthur makes by the end of chapter 6. You lose the horses. You lose his weapons. So I think it's interesting because you actually keep the clothing. Like whatever's in the satchel and clothing you keep, but everything else is gone. Because John starts off with nothing. Not even money, not even anything.
Only got $20.
Yeah. The only thing he gets besides the satchel is Arthur's hat, because Arthur literally gives John his hat. He puts the hat on John's head, he gives him his satchel, and then John runs off, and then Arthur makes one final stand if you play it the right way.
Yeah.
You get Arthur's horses in Valentine. Are you sure you get them in Valentine? Because, like, I went to a stable and there was no... Like, this stable had no horses. And the horses are supposed to be at all the stables.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I can go up to Valentine and look, and after the stream, I guess I go do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do that right now, because I think we're working on wrapping up the stream. But I guess and I'm glad also, like I said, I'm glad that I didn't sell everything that I had from Arthur, like all those I mean, I did go to the fence a few times, but it got to the point where I had so much money, and I wasn't spending the money, that I stopped, like, even bothering going to the fence. I just was collecting, like, rings and bracelets and pocket watches, and fortunately, I was able to help John out a little bit, you know. Yeah, I'll check after the stream. I'm probably going to play a little bit after post-stream, because I've been enjoying this game very thoroughly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how Rockstar could create a Red Dead Redemption 3 after this. I really don't. What do you think? Do you think they could or no?
I mean, if they want to, they could, but I personally think this game is a good way to end the Red Dead Redemption series. It is, because of how good the story was.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were to make another one, it would turn into similar to GTA, where they, you know, make a game every few years. They do.
Yeah. And that's
I feel like
yeah, I agree.
I'm more used to a GTA every few years, you know.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption's a nice little bonus we get.
Yeah. I feel like if they ever did a third Red Dead Redemption, they'd have to go further back in time, and they'd have to, like, go with some entirely new characters. I agree, Wyoming. Completely different people.
Yeah.
That's what they would have to do. They would have to go with somebody, like, they'd have to, I don't know. And some people may not be happy with that, but I just feel like that they've played out this story. There's plenty of backstory mentioned in Red Dead Redemption regarding the Vanderlyn gang, where it definitely did work out for them to go back. And it was cool that they did that, because most of the time Rockstar doesn't do that.
Mm.
I mean, sometimes they'll bring back characters from previous like GTAs, but for the most part they don't.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kari. I think they should just keep Red Dead finished. Not every IP needs to be turned into a saga. Max Payne's 3 story suffered because they insisted on milking the story. Yeah, they should have finished with Max Payne 3. That's a good point. And, I mean, realistically, Rockstar's now shifting their focus to Red Dead Online, coming up in a few weeks. So, I don't know. I mean, I think, where would you guys like Red Dead Online to be set? Do you think it should be set in, I think it's going to be set in 1907. What do you think?
I think it should be at least set during the early 1900s, at least like 1902 or 3, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, before they go and kill Micah, after the fallout of the gang, like, during the Inti years, basically.
It's possible they could do that. But I feel like what they're gonna do is, I think this is my theory. I think they're just gonna make it 1907. But you have a good point though. They could say 1905, and because it will have an effect on what the map looks like.
Yeah.
So if it's before John buys Beecher's Hope, you'll see Beecher's Hope as a rundown shithole that it is when you first come across it, with just a shack and squatters.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think Red Dead Online's timeline might change. Yeah, it will. It may change just like with Grand Theft Auto Online's timeline, but I think they're gonna have to put it. They're gonna have to start it somewhere. But where's the better place to put Red Dead Online? I don't think 1899 works, because I think they're going to want to give us whatever the fully finished version of this map is going to be as the map to play in. And I think that's a big reason why post-epilogue you have so much more free breathing room to run around in, even though you really didn't do much in the main story in New Austin, except for that one mission with Sadie and Pike's Basin, is because they wanted a big map for Red Dead Online. So I think that's one of two reasons. They wanted a big enough map for people to enjoy in Red Dead Online. And two, there was no way that they could justify somehow cutting off New Austin if they were going to include West Elizabeth, like tall trees and there's a wolf. Hello, wolf. Wolf, what are you doing? Oh, there's a whole bunch of wolves. I'm fucked. Wolves are a lot more fierce in this game than they were in Red Dead Redemption, by the way. So they couldn't magically put up a wall between the border of West Elizabeth and New Austin. So I think they had no choice but to include New Austin, but it also works to their advantage for Red Dead Online because it gives an even bigger map for people to explore and play around in. But they were able to justify No Mexico, and they could always do they could always do a Nuevo Paraíso expansion pack, I guess. Let's see. Wyman, good news. You'll find out soon. You're right, because I think the Red Dead Online beta is happening. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's coming sometime this month. Maybe they're going to wait till after they patch Red Dead Redemption 2 first, which would make sense. And maybe they'll have the patch will also tie into Red Dead Online, since they are kind of connected together in a way. But you know what would be interesting? Just a final thought. Like, what if they gave us a Nuevo Paraíso expansion, which allowed them to also allow us to go back and play Red Dead Redemption in this very game?
Yeah. That'd be amazing playing the original Red Dead Redemption. These graphics.
Yeah.
That'd be beautiful.
So that too is a possibility, which may not happen. What would you guys rather have? Would you guys rather have that, a Nuevo Paraíso expansion DLC, which would inadvertently give us a free, unintentional, I guess, remastered edition of Red Dead Redemption built into this game? Or would you rather have a new Undead Nightmare or Cowboys versus Aliens themed DLC? Because if we're lucky, we may get one story DLC, just like we did with Red Dead Redemption. What would you guys rather have?
I mean, me personally, I'd rather have a remaster of the original Red Dead Redemption story. An Undead Nightmare during Arthur Morgan's time period, it just wouldn't sort of make sense in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I understood it for the original game because it was some sort of goofy little DLC kind of thing, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that, you know, it's like having the Zombies DLC set in the medieval era. Like, it doesn't seem right in a way.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's basically an alternative universe. It's kind of like an Elseworld story. It has nothing to do with the main story of Red Dead Redemption. It's just this alternative timeline that happens.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't know. I feel like as much as I enjoyed Undead Nightmare, and this is coming from somebody that doesn't give a shit about zombies. I'm tired of zombies, but it was a very good zombies DLC. One of the best zombie DLCs, or maybe even one of the best zombie game modes ever made. I feel like that probably is not going to be a thing. And there is some like alien Easter eggs. So, I mean, there were also alien Easter eggs in Grand Theft Auto 5. So, and we never got a rumored alien DLC for Grand Theft Auto 5. So, once again, I think Rockstar just likes teasing us. I think that's what it comes down to. It's a tease. The aliens were always a tease in Grand Theft Auto 5, and the aliens once again are a tease in Red Dead Redemption 2. We're being teased again by Rockstar.
Yeah. Always to tease.
Yeah, but like I said, hopefully we'll at least get one story-based DLC. But then again, there's so much to do in this game, and Rockstar gave us so much more post-epilogue, especially the ability to explore New Austin, that they theoretically don't have to give you a story DLC, because there's already so much to do in the game already. Even if you just want to go hunting and fishing, or just doing side quests or bounty hunting. Erica, you're right. They do love to surprise us as well, but I do think that the focus going forward will most likely be Red Dead Online. So, but I'm looking forward to that as well. Hopefully it'll have a better launch than Grand Theft Auto Online did, and hopefully there'll be more to do day one in Red Dead Online than Grand Theft Auto Online. I mean, there was a lot to do in Grand Theft Auto Online day one, but they eventually added more good stuff and more bad stuff, which we already complained about a month ago. No, 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
It was a few months ago, but we'll see. Final thoughts, guys? Anyone? Bueller?
I mean, might as well just say Red Dead Redemption 2 is my second favorite video game of all time. I mean, it doesn't beat The Walking Dead Season 1, but it's weird for me. I like The Walking Dead Season 1 more, but I like the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2 more than The Walking Dead Season 1's. It's crazy for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's in a conflict battle in my mind right now about which I like more.
Yeah, I mean, storyline, I can see why you like the first season of Walking Dead, but when it comes to content,
Yeah, the Red Dead Redemption 2 will definitely be my number one out of them two.
Yeah, I mean, content in this game is leaps and bounds more than you would expect from the average, like, single-player game. I mean, it's just tons of stuff to do, and it's going to be years of enjoyment. Plus, people are still finding Easter eggs, and all the various random encounters you have. Plus, if you just like hunting or fishing like I do, you know, at least I'm doing it in a video game, guys. PETA. So there, I'm doing it in a video game. But let's see, chat before we go. Kari, what if they bring back Soul Wax? No, no Soul Wax. No, thank you. No, thank you, Kari.
Oh no, not Soul Wax.
No, Fortunately, I don't see that happening. Let's see. Tank, Red Dead Redemption 2 has been an amazing game. Erica might start a new game later. Cool. Carlene, this is my second favorite game of the year behind Detroit Become Human. Wildman, Red Dead Redemption 2 has one of the best story arcs that I've seen for a while. Yeah, definitely good. And it definitely is a good companion with Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they did, I don't know how you would call it, do like a back-end remaster with, say, a Nuevo Progreso update, which allowed you to play that story, you know, with this game and maybe some tweaks, maybe some retconning.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dan Houser's the writer for both games, and if he wants to retcon something, then he has a right to retcon it. I don't like that. I do like things sticking to canon, but so much shit now has been retconned in comics and other stories that after a while it just happens.
Yeah.
But for the most part, almost everything does connect between Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, with a few exceptions. Right?
Yeah.
Well, Kane, I appreciate you being with us today. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on, GB, as usual.
You're welcome. And we'll be seeing more of... I know some of you have been missing Kane and Riley and the others. But with Red Dead Online coming, we're definitely going to be getting the posse back together.
I'll be back. I'll be back then to annoy y'all. But for now, you're free from me for a little longer. Just for a little longer.
Yeah, we'll be getting the gang back together.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because we haven't played as much. I mean, I was thinking about doing a Halloween event, but it's already too late for that because, well, Halloween was Wednesday. And like I said a couple weeks ago, by doing the Halloween event after Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out, nobody was going to give a shit.
It's like, oh, Halloween event. Ah, well, win some, you lose some.
For the life of me, I don't know why they didn't start the event a week earlier when it would have made more sense. That way we could have enjoyed some Halloween, then do Red Dead Redemption 2. But you only get a Halloween event the day before Halloween. It makes no damn sense to me. And there's nothing new, and it just overall was crap, just like I expected it to be. But that's a different game. And like I said, once Red Dead Online comes out, I will be playing it, streaming it with you guys on the PS4 Pro and everyone over on the Xbox One X. It's going to be the same thing that we were doing, jumping back and forth, just like we've been doing with Grand Theft Auto Online. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, Kane, what is up on your channel? What do you got going on?
All right, so I have a few big old plans. First of all, I'm going to be doing the rest of The Walking Dead Season 4 with the last 3 episodes that are thankfully being made.
Nice.
I'm also going to be doing Black Ops 4 Zombies content. I know Black Ops 4 competing against Red Dead 2. It's basically it's like asking to bring a butter knife to a big old guns and blazing war. there's no winner there. But I'm gonna do Black Ops 4 Zombies content. I'm also gonna do Red Dead Redemption 2 content. I'll try and maybe do something like that. And I don't know whether I should or not, but I'm thinking about maybe trying to make like videos where I talk about stuff in depth. Like, for example, like I don't mean like, certain stuff, but I mean like story events in games in depth. What is the cycle, or how does John learn all the stuff that Arthur has in that. I'll try and do stuff like that, basically. Like theory videos in a way.
Yeah.
That's one thing I have planned. I don't know whether I should or not.
Yeah.
And also another thing before we go. There's one thing I plan on doing, and that's bringing back an old series I used to do called Nerdy Reviews, where I just reviewed games and gave my opinion on them, basically.
Oh, cool.
And I'm thinking about the first episode will be Spider-Man PS4.
Go for it. That sounds cool. Oh, there's one final retcon I have issue with, even though it's joked about in like Arthur jokes to John about it a few times about him being scared of the water. Apparently, John also can swim to a certain degree in Red Dead Redemption 2. Apparently. I haven't tried it because it's one of those things I don't want to try. Because it's basically canon that John is supposed to not be able to swim, even though Arthur can kind of swim.
Yeah.
Erica tested it the other night and she said that John, in fact, can swim. He probably can swim just as well as Arthur can. But honestly, I don't like it. I think it should be insta-death anytime he tries to go in the water. It's just the running joke, you know? Running canon.
Yeah.
Even though it's just basically the way the game was built, you know, back 8 years ago. Just a point I wanted to make real quick before you officially say goodbye to everybody. So, Kane, keep doing what you're doing. Keep making the content you enjoy making. So, yeah. See, Kari, same reason why Claude and Tommy couldn't swim in Grand Theft Auto games, but CJ can. They just, yeah, no, they eventually made it to where they could swim because of mechanics, but I always thought it was kind of funny. It was a justifiable running joke why John couldn't swim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. He can swim, but your stamina runs out instantly, and John looks funny. Nah, I just won't take John swimming because that's John Marston to me. John Marston cannot swim. But
Yeah.
like I said, we'll be seeing more of Kane and Riley, hopefully, and maybe Chaotic Irishman and Epic. Some of the others, Crone. I don't know if Crone's playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I haven't heard him mention anything about Red Dead Redemption 2 last time I talked to him, so probably not. I don't know. But, yeah, when Red Dead Online comes out, like I mentioned, the old gang will get back together, put on our cowboy hats, cowgirl hats, dusters, saddle up, get our revolvers ready to go, and our repeaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Red Dead Online.
Woo. Yeah.
All right, Kane, I will talk to you later, good sir.
All right, I will see you in a bit, GB. Thanks for having me on, and I will see everyone in chat later.
All right, so before we go, here's what's happening the rest of the weekend. Surprisingly, you guys probably didn't expect this to happen, especially since I've been mentioning it a few times how I'm kind of going away from making content. Unless every now and then I'm inspired or motivated or irked. I won't be bringing back the rant series on a weekly basis. However, I am working on a rant for tomorrow. Yes, I am. And like I mentioned, it's not going to be weekly anymore. It may be a rant. You may get a rant from me once a month or maybe twice a month. And it's going to be specifically whenever there's something that comes up that I really want to rant about. And, well, I have something to rant about tomorrow. So, yay. No, I'm not going to do a rant every other week. I'm just going to do rants whenever I feel like doing a rant, Erica, because even then I get to the point where I feel like I'm trying to find something to rant about. It's the same thing with the vlog series. It's the same issue I have with the vlog series that after a while you start running out of ideas. I mean, the vlog series, definitely, it feels like that. But I'm going to still try to continue the vlog series as well, but that's a different channel. That's a different channel. It's not the same as this channel. But, yeah, tomorrow we will be doing a rant. At least that's my plan. I'm going to work on it after I play a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2. And so, yeah. But don't look for the rant series to come back on a weekly basis. It's just going to be something I do every now and then. And for the most part, going forward, I think the focus of the channel is just going to be me playing video games. Like Red Dead Online. Whenever it comes out, I'll be playing that. I'm not going to do event weeks anymore. I may stream event weeks, like in Grand Theft Auto Online. If, say, Tuesday there's a really good event week that starts, say, double money for contact missions or double money for Act 3 Doomsday Heist. We may finally wrap that up on Xbox One. But I'm not going to cover the event weeks anymore. But I will play the event weeks. If they're not shit. Or as they say across the pond in Caneland in the UK, if they're not rubbish. Yeah. So in a way, I will still cover the event weeks, but I'm no longer going to make videos going over that. And whenever we have trailers, whether it's for Red Dead Online or new DLCs for Red Dead Online or Grand Theft Auto Online, we'll just do live stream breakdowns of the trailers. If the trailer doesn't come out the day the game launches. That's how we'll do it. So anyways, that's pretty much the plan for the channel going forward. Hopefully you guys are still on board. Hopefully. And before we go, thank you so much to everybody that was here, including Kane, along with Tank Engine Jr., Erica, Carlene, Kari, Wildman. And if I haven't mentioned your name now, now's your time to say goodbye. Archangel was here. Who else stopped by? Feel free and say goodbye while you have a chance to say goodbye. And I hope you all have a great weekend. And of course, as always, thank you so much to our awesome members and Super Chat heroes for October 2018. It's very much appreciated, not necessary, never required, but they have gone above and beyond for the GeauxBurns Nation, and I like to give them props and credit. And thank you to our Super Chat heroes, as well as our members. By the way, the wall is from a ranch my family was a part owner of for many years out in southwest Texas on Edwards Plateau. It was a beautiful ranch, really big, several, like at least 1,000+ acres, I think. And like West Elizabeth has always reminded me of the ranch that we used to own. We sold it a couple years ago. But this was back in, I think, 2013 in November. It was the last time I went down to the ranch. And at the time, I didn't realize we were going to sell it till after the fact, but we had to sell it. Well, all 4 families that owned the ranch, including ours, we sold it. We had no choice. It was just one of those money situations where we had to sell it. But I had some great memories there, and I was really close with the family that the foreman and his family. I was very close with them as well. And yeah, I had some memories from going down there at least once or twice a year growing up. And it's a nice place, you know. I liked it. So I thought it'd be fitting to put an image from the ranch on the wall for November, since November 2013 was the last time I went down there. So there you go. That's a little backstory regarding the wall, because every month I do change the background image of the wall. All right. So anyways, you guys are awesome. Each and every one of you for being here, being part of the spoilers regarding Red Dead Redemption 2. I think we did a somewhat decent job going from start to finish. I think we covered just about everything. I think we did. I still don't know what happened to Karen, though. I doubt it was happily ever after for her. I think she probably ended up dead or drunk in a street or something. I don't know. Rip Karen. I actually liked Karen, too. That's what's really sad about it. But, you know, some people got happy endings. Some people did not. And the ending with, like, Jack and John and Abigail and Uncle at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2 is beautiful. It's a happy ending, yet it's very tragic as well, because you know how that's going to end as well. So it's kind of weird. You have mixed emotions about the whole thing. It's nice to see him sitting around the dinner table eating or hanging out at Beecher's Hope again. But you know, in a few years from now, that's going to come to an end. But that's life, I suppose. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here, as always. And if you're new to the channel, we're going to continue streaming Red Dead Online whenever that launches, and hopefully a week or two from now. Maybe next week we'll get the trailer for Red Dead Online. And if I get in the mood, maybe we'll stream some more Red Dead Redemption 2 this week. We'll see how it goes. I really don't know what I'm planning for this coming week. Maybe we'll do, like I mentioned, Grand Theft Auto Online streams if there's a good event week, Tuesday. But I won't be covering the event itself. I'm just going to stream it. But so if you're into Grand Theft Auto Online, Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Online, you're more than welcome to join us. Subscribe to the GeauxBurns Nation. If you enjoyed the live stream, be sure and hit the like button on your way out. It's very much appreciated. And to be notified about future streams, ring the bell, ding the bell. You can also be notified via Facebook and Twitter. We have an Instagram along with the vlogs channel. I post a new vlog, at least I try to, every 2 or 3 weeks. And hopefully by tomorrow, I'll have something for the vlogs channel for Monday. I don't have an idea yet. So it's kind of the 11th hour on that. Well, maybe the 10th hour. Tomorrow will be the 11th hour. Hopefully I'll have an idea by tomorrow for a new vlog for Monday. And finally, our awesome, growing, thriving Discord community. All the links to the GeauxBurns Nation below in the description section. And Kane has the lines this time since Riley is currently MIA. Hopefully Riley's doing all right. Maybe working, maybe doing school. Maybe she's griefing people in Grand Theft Auto Online. Kane says this is the closing lines we'll go with. As always, from the bottom of Arthur Morgan's filled heart, from me to you fine folks, as always, thanks for watching.